Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Council Chambers and to City Hall. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Huerta, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Paulette Guajardo.
Present.
Council members Roland Barrera.
Here.
Sylvia Campos. Here. Eric Cantu is absent. Gil Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez is supposed to be participating by WebEx today. Kaylin Paxson.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Everett Roy.
Present.
Mark Scott.
Here.
Carolyn Vaughn.
Here.
City Manager Peter Zanoni.
Present.
City Attorney Miles Risley.
Here.
Mayor and Council, a quorum of the council and the required charter officers are present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. So this morning, we're here to provide an overview of the fiscal year 2026 proposed budget and additional detail of the general fund proposed budget. Mr. Zanoni.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Mayor and Council and the community that may be listening. Today is our first budget workshop for the FY26 proposed budget. And we do have two things on the agenda this morning or today. From 9 to 1 is our planned time for this. The first is in front of you, which is the budget, first budget workshop material. You have that handout in front of you. And then the second thing we'll do after we do that is the fire chief will do his briefing that was scheduled for the last council meeting, but because that meeting went kind of long, we postponed it. And we thought today would be a good day for the fire chief to go over some of his operational procedures and metrics and forecasted delivery in the future. And so he'll do that second today after we do the budget workshop, just so that we make sure we're covering both public safeties, the fire. I mean, the police chief already did 2 briefings to the council in the last couple of months or so. So this is a similar briefing that the fire chief will give that the police chief has given over 2 prior council meetings. So just a quick recap on the budget. So the FY26 proposed budget that is for the fiscal year that begins October 1. We did deliver to your offices or to your mailboxes the 2 budget books. We have the operating and then the capital budget. That was delivered a week ago, or more than a week ago on Monday. And so the council and the community has had time to look at it. Today's workshop will be led by Amy Colley, our budget director, and today we'll focus on the general fund primarily, and we'll do a little bit of introduction on some of the other funds. Our next workshop will focus on the water, wastewater, and the rates for water, and we'll probably carry that over to the third workshop with the City Council. Just some quick highlights on the budget. This budget that we're proposing is balanced, so we eliminated that $7 million shortfall. The budget overall, though, is less than what we had a year ago, so the budget is down, if you will. Not down in terms of excitement for the community, but just down in numbers-wise. So when you look at the total budget, the number for the proposed budget is $1.6 billion, and we know that today's budget is $1.8 billion. So that's a % reduction, if you will, in planned expenditures for this coming fiscal year. If you look at just the operating budget, all the operating funds, that is down about 5% or about 49 million less. And then the general fund budget is just about the same as what it was a year ago or in the current year, just 0.8% more. And one thing we'll focus on in one of our workshops, which is a high priority, is street funding. We have to talk about not the 26 so much, but the 27 budget, where we'll have less revenue for streets. But in this budget, we're proposing 11% more in street funding. So that's a big bonus in the budget. So after today, after this workshop this evening, we have our first community workshop on the budget. That'll be in City Council District 3. And then next week, we'll have another workshop, as I mentioned, and then we'll have 2 community budget hearings next week, August 13th and then August 14th next week. So with that, we're going to turn it over to Amy, who will walk us through the presentation. You have that in front of you, and we'll show it on the screen as well.
Thank you, Peter. And the way we're going to proceed is hear out all of the entire presentation, and then the council will have questions and answers and discussion after the entire presentation has been presented to us.
Thank you. And it looks like we're on the last slide, if you don't mind moving the presentation to the first slide. Yeah, Very quick. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'm Amy Cowley, the Director of Management and Budget. I'm very excited to discuss our general fund budget with you today. Before we begin, I would like to just acknowledge our budget team. We have a very small but mighty team, and they have worked many, many hours with all of our departments to build this budget for our city, and they've done great work. Okay, let's get started. So for our FY26 proposed budget, just a reminder, as Mr. Zanoni said, we did have a preliminary forecast of a $7 million shortfall, a difference between our incoming revenues and our anticipated expenses. We worked through that by collaborating with all of our city departments who did some really great work on evaluating their core services, how they charge for the services and the cost of those services, and then identifying opportunities for efficiencies or expense reductions. So we'll go through that in detail today for the general fund. This slide is pretty telling as far as what we saw when we prepared our initial forecast and where we wound up with property tax and sales tax. So our very early assumption as we looked at the FY26 general fund budget for our two main sources of revenue in that fund were that revenues were going to be flat. And so if you look at the chart on the left of this slide, you can see in the last 6 years that there was significant increases in our net taxable property values, and in the last 2 years that leveled off. And then the chart on the right shows sales tax, which is a very similar story here. The sales tax was growing for several years significantly, and in the last 2 years has leveled off. This is our overall city proposed operating budget. The total is $1.6 billion. That is $941 million of operating funds and $693 million in our capital budget. The overall decrease in this budget is 12%. We had a 5% decrease on our operating funds and then a 20% decrease in the capital. This pie chart, there's actually two really important things to notice in this pie chart. What I would call the crust, that black ring on the outside, represents our general fund revenues. And you can see that sales tax and property tax represents more than half of our general fund revenues. Our total general fund budget is $346.5 million, and the expenses are in the inside of that pie. Those slices represent those expenses, and you can see that public safety represents more than half of that budget. For the general fund, there is a slight increase in our proposed budget of 0.8%. This slide represents all of that collaborative work that our departments did and the time that they spent beginning in February of this year to really critically look at their operations. And so we can see at a glance that there are 5 departments that had mandated increases to their budgets. There are 7 departments that had enhancements, so increases to their budgets that weren't mandated by contracts or legal requirements. And then we had almost all of our general fund departments that submitted some sort of efficiency or reduction to their budget. And then we had 5 departments with revenue changes. So now we're going to look at the revenue changes to fees for service. So we've got the fire department, code compliance, parks and rec, police, animal care services, and library who had changes to revenues. There's six departments there. The fire portion is over $500,000, which is a significant amount. And we'll go into more detail, but the majority of that is related to EMS revenue. So for code compliance, our code compliance department is recommending implementation of a vacant building registration fee and a vacant building inspection fee. This would result in $414,000 of additional revenues to the general fund. This is a new fee. The fire department, total revenue increase results in over $500,000. $314,000 of that is related to inflationary increase to medical services. That's the EMS call revenue. And then there is an increase of $193,000 for the services the fire department provides to CCW for maintaining fire hydrants. So that revenue is coming from CCW to the fire department. The police department looked at their new training academy and said, we have an opportunity to provide training to other agencies, our partner agencies in the area. And so they're requesting a new fee be approved to charge for registration for those trainings. That would result in an estimated $100,000 in additional revenue. The Animal Care Services Department is recommending increasing a few of their fees. These fees have not been adjusted since 2015 or 2018. The total revenue increase projected is $24,510, and these fees would increase. The detail is there. It's also in our budget book. All of our fee change detail is there. Would increase for impound fees, boarding fees, for pets that are picked up and picked up on a recurring basis, and then some vaccines would be increasing. The Parks and Rec Department is proposing an overall revenue increase of $411,955. The fees that they looked at are related to after-hour kid power, related to reserving a pool for a party, a pavilion for an event, those types of things. And so there are the main fees listed. We use 2 slides for the fees that are listed. There are more fees in the budget book that had a less of an impact monetarily, but the detail is fully listed out in our proposed budget book. So this represents the fees related to the Learning Center, some vendor permits, and then other special events. Next, we'll look at mandated expenditures. So these are increases to our general fund expenses that are mandated by a legal requirement or a contractual requirement. The majority of the increase you can see here is related to the public safety collective bargaining agreements. And then we have an increase for Parks and Rec that's related to CIP projects that will be coming online, and then solid waste, which is related to contractual requirements. So for the police department, we are in year 3, or we'll be going into year 3 of a 4-year agreement. Based on that agreement, all officers will receive a 3% increase to pay effective April 1. And then we've also included an increase to their overtime to right-size that budget along with their pay increases. For the fire department, they are in year 2, or will be going into year 2 of 4 of their collective bargaining agreement. All firefighters will receive a 3% pay increase effective October 1. We've also included an increase to overtime to right-size that budget. We've got a increase built into the budget of 0.984%. This was a planned increase. We are in year 5 of that plan. We've added firefighter occupational cancer screenings and physicals. This was based on a legislative update. And then an increase to EMS billing services, which is increasing based on the amount the revenues are increasing as a percentage of revenues. For Parks and Recreation, we have included 3 months of operating and maintenance at the Northside Aquatics Facility, the Harbor Bridge Parks, and the Trail System. In the Solid Waste Department, we have incorporated increases to the push and pack contract and the recycling contract. Next, we will discuss enhancements to expenditures. So these are increases to our general fund expenditures that aren't mandated by a legal or contractual requirement. Most of these increases were assumed in our initial forecast, and we'll go through that in detail. And you can see here that public safety represents $3.3 million, and Parks and Rec represents just under $500,000. So for the police department, we have included the Police Training Academy, which begins in July each year, and we've included funding for 25 trainees. And then we've added funding for 5 additional police officers. In the fire department, we've included the Fire Academy, which begins in January of each year, and funding for 23 cadets. And then we've added funding for 5 additional firefighters. For animal care services, we've included enhancements that were in line with the City Gate recommendations that you had seen previously. This is in addition to what was added at mid-year in this current fiscal year. It includes an additional administrative dispatcher position, and then we have the free spay-neuter vouchers included in the budget and supplemental veterinary services. The city auditor's office, at the audit committee meeting prior to our finalization of the budget, it was discussed that they would have just over $70,000 added to their salaries budget, plus 30% for benefits. And so the total increase to their personnel budget was $96,000. That was based on the discussion. I did want to point out that there were some additional requests that came into my office after that meeting, and so I'd be looking for your direction on whether or not to include that in the budget. These requests are not currently in the proposed budget, but it does include new audit software, annual recurring cost of $25,000, and a one-time implementation of $7,000. It includes professional services of $20,000 and a certification incentive pay program for $4,000. For the finance department, we included a budget for grant writing services. This would be professional services for grant writing specifically. In Parks and Rec, we are proposing to continue the implementation of our athletic field maintenance program. So this would be an enhancement that includes an addition of 4 positions. The Planning and Economic Development Department, we have added a position for homeless services, 1 position. And then also included as an enhancement, this affects all departments, specifically police and civilian employees. We're proposing an update to the TMRS plan provisions, and this slide just shows the current provisions in our TMRS, our retirement plan, and the proposed changes to those provisions. The highlighted rows are the provisions that would be changing. So we would be going from a 7% employee contribution to 8%. The city's match 2-to-1 would not change. We would still match the 2-to-1. And then it includes a change to transfer updated service credit, and then a change to the cost of living adjustment, and then the retroactive COLA. There's a lot of words on this slide, forgive me, but this is to help try to explain what those changes mean. So just briefly, I'll go through this. For the transfer updated service credit, this transfer feature allows the USC calculation to include previous employment with other TMRS cities. adjusting the USC to align, it aligns with the top 20 cities that are in the TMRS system. And then the change for the COLA from annual repeating to an ad hoc is the term TMRS uses, which means that it won't automatically occur every year. It would come before this body annually to approve that COLA review and adjustment. For the retroactive COLA, that calculates based on the change in the consumer price index, and currently it's non-retroactive COLA, so that only looks at the most recent year. The retroactive COLA would take it from the beginning of a person's retirement to the current year. So next we're going to look at reductions to expenditures, and you can see the departments did a lot of work here. This represents just a ton of time and collaboration to bring forward these recommendations to you. So we'll go through that in detail. For the city attorney's office, in FY25, they're holding a position vacant for 12 months, and that will continue into FY26. For the city manager's office, there has been a budget of $500,000 for a reserve appropriation that's really intended for emergency uses, and so that is being removed from this proposed budget. And then he will also hold the assistant city manager position vacant for another 12 months, as well as that management assistant. In total, this was roughly $1 million. The city secretary, city council, and mayor's office will be holding a position vacant for 7 months after retirement. And then the mayor's public relations specialist will be held vacant for 12 months. For code compliance, we're proposing to eliminate 2 vacant code compliance officer positions and 1 vacant administrative position. This would leave 27 positions in code compliance. For communications, these reductions are really specific to the 311 call center, and the department looked closely at what made sense with operations, and so one of the recommendations is to reduce the call center hours from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And when they looked at call volume during the hours of 7 to 8 and 5 to 6, it made sense to do this. And then they would be eliminating their office lease at the 311 call center, which also made sense and was a good business recommendation. Then there's a reduction to temporary salaries, which is a line item that they've not needed to utilize. And so all of these changes made good business sense for the operation. And then we would be transferring 1 position from that department to an internal service fund. This is another department who looked at their operations and said, let's make some changes that make sense. And so the court, Judge Chapa did a great job looking at court administration budget, and she's recommending that we eliminate the food budget for the detention center staff, the professional services and rentals that makes sense to remove, and then to reclassify the assistant director position to a lower level position, which would generate savings. That assistant director would be reclassified to a court administrator position. For the fire department, these are one-time reductions, does not impact their training academies, but there is some savings that can be realized one time for Del Mar tuition and for promotion testing. And the health department, they looked at the services being provided for nursing health, and that will be moved out of the general fund into their special revenue fund, the charity care program. Services won't be impacted, it's just a transition of the funding out of the general fund. For human resources, they are eliminating an organizational development manager, and then they have 2 positions that were in that division that will be reclassified to other roles within the department to result in some savings. And then they're reducing the budget for some developmental courses, memberships, and professional services. For libraries, there's a reduction to books and periodicals. And then due to the changes that are happening with Flower Bluff ISD, they're changing their operations, when we're going to be allowed in the building because of student safety concerns and the requirements for those protocols. We'll be eliminating a vacant branch manager position there. And it is currently vacant. For the Parks Department, they evaluated the after-hour Kid Power program and identified 2 positions that would not be needed to continue operating that program, so those positions would be eliminated. And then we would be transferring a custodian to our asset management fund. And then they also looked at the tennis center business model and realized some savings by changing those operations. One of the great, I think, really good news stories we have for the Parks Department is the work they've done on the Oso Bay Learning Center and seeking out contributions to fund that program. And so we'll be transferring the Oso Bay Learning Center out of the general fund into a special revenue fund dedicated for that learning center, where we can receive contributions to operate it. Currently in this budget, we are having to transfer a minimal amount of general fund support to close that gap. So this is considered an efficiency. The recommendation is that we eliminate 3 positions from the Economic Development Department and consolidate that department with the planning. And so the new department would be Planning and Economic Development. We would be reducing some operating expenses as well, holding a special project manager position vacant for 12 months. And then we're also proposing to eliminate the fee waiver program for infill housing. For the police department, this isn't really a reduction. It doesn't change the services in the police department, but the cost of maintaining the facility are transferring to asset management in accordance with the asset management business plan. So for the general fund as a whole, this will show you our adopted budget for 25 and our proposed budget for 26 by department, a comparison. You can see where there were some increases and some decreases. In total, the general fund budget increased $2.7 million, and that's a 0.8% increase. Considering some of the mandated expenditures and changes there, I think that's pretty excellent work on behalf of our departments. Now I'll go over our other funds just at a high level. These are our enterprise fund expenditures in the proposed budget. You can see where there are increases or decreases over the FY25 adopted budget for each enterprise fund. Overall change is a $9 million increase for the enterprise funds. Special revenue funds has, you can see there are some changes, fairly significant decreases in some of our special revenue funds over the prior year. That's primarily due to lowering our transfer to the CIP projects. And we had several very large projects that were funded out of special revenue fund operating dollars last year, and so that decrease is reflected here. Overall, the decrease is almost $56 million. For our internal service funds, And just a reminder, internal service funds are exactly that. These are funds that serve the entire city as an organization, and they receive their funding to operate from other city departments. So overall, these funds are decreasing 1.4 million over the prior year adopted. And then for debt service funds, you can see there is a decrease in our debt service proposed budget as well. Here we have projected fund balance comparison. So as we look at some of our major funds, our budgeted ending fund balance for FY25 compared to our budgeted ending fund balance for FY26. And then that final column reflects what our reserve policy is according to our financial policies. For the general fund, we keep a 20% of expenditures in our reserve for contingencies. For enterprise funds, it's 25%. Special revenue funds do not have a required reserve amount. And then our employee benefits funds, that reserves should be in line with our incurred but not reported claims and potential catastrophic claims. That is received from our actuary each year. So just a reminder, this is our first budget workshop, number 1 of 4. We have 3 more to come. I look forward to working with you all as we refine our budget for FY26. And then this evening, we have our first community input session. There are 7 scheduled throughout the city in every district. They are all from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And the dates and times are noted here. They're also listed on our FY26 budget website and can be available for viewing there. That concludes my presentation, and you have a great team of people here to assist with answering questions.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Peter, you don't have any comment? We can just go into.
No, I think Amy did a good job summing up the budget. So recall again, though, we did have a $7 million shortfall in the general fund, and this would be the second year where revenues weren't sufficient for planned expenditures. The prior year, we reduced the budget by $9 million. So this is another reduction in services. These we tried to not impact direct service delivery, and so the budget becomes balanced by reducing the budget by $4 million. Bringing on additional property tax revenue that the appraisers didn't anticipate initially, and then making some minor adjustments in user fees of $1.5 million. The new enhancements in the budget are limited, and Amy spoke to it a little bit, but they do reflect the council's priorities that we've heard from you. That includes grant writing services, homelessness services, police and fire. And so we're fortunate to, we didn't make the goal of adding, I think it was 15 plus firefighter positions and 10 police officer positions as requested by our chiefs, but we do make progress in adding 5 additional positions in each operating department, both 5 for police and 5 for fire. So that's good, because if we take too many pauses and not add additional public safety positions, it gets tougher to add them, and more, even tougher to train them. You can only train so many in an academy. So this will keep us up. This will keep us up to speed, we believe, and both chiefs are happy with that, and I think the council has expressed interest in doing that. So I think that's a good summary. As Amy said, she's here, the budget office is here, I'm here, and most of our major department heads are here to entertain questions and comments from the council.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. I actually have a question, and it's for fire. It's a line item. It's not specific to anything that was presented. I don't know if Chief Wade could probably, or maybe you could answer. The question is it's on page 116 of the budget book. There's a line item that we're always very cognizant of, because it's ambulance services. So it's city ambulance operations. So I noticed that has decreased by about $500,000. And so I'm just curious as to, or can someone give me an explanation on why that decreased, or how so?
I can double check for you, Chief. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was a capital replacement, medic units.
What, I'm sorry?
Medic units, so we had budgeted in FY '25 for medic units that are not budgeted in FY '26.
Okay, and that's the $500,000. Great, thank you.
That's just so the community, or you all know, those are the actual vehicles, if you will. So it's an ambulance truck, if you will. So that's a one-time purchase. We included a few in the budget last year. This year, we don't have funding to continue that, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let me check. We have, no, okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Councilman Scott.
Yes, ma'am, thanks. I'm going to just run through a couple thoughts. So as we're communicating with the public, we had a $7 million shortfall. We've resolved that through a variety of changes, additional income through ad valorem that we didn't expect, and then some reductions, right?
That's correct.
So, but in that, we say that the general fund is, that the budget is overall 12% less this year than last. Is that what I'm saying?
The entire budget.
Overall.
The 1.8 compared to the 1.6, yes, sir.
Okay, and then go diving deeper, is it a 5, because on page 5, it says a 5% decrease in the proposed operating budget, but then later you said it's an 8% decrease, and so just what am I missing?
The 5% decrease looks at all funds citywide for all operating. The decrease is 0.8%, so less than 1% in the general fund specifically.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So
yeah.
the overall budget is down 12%.
Right.
The operating budget is down 5%.
Right.
Say that
Right.
again? And then what is the point?
The 0.8% is the increase to the general fund. So general fund only.
Yeah, Councilman, we're kind of dissecting it. So the biggest number, the one that, we're familiar with is the overall, all funds including operating and capital. That 1.6 billion decreases by 12%. And then if you say, forget about the capital budget, just the operating expenditures, things like garbage service, police services, airport services, direct services, no capital expenditures. When you look at that budget, it decreases 5%.
Okay.
Okay, and that's within the big overall budget,
Got it.
1.6. But when you kind of dissect out now just operating, the capital budget, if you say, let's just look at the capital budget, that decreases 20%. So you can see on this picture here on the bottom right.
Yep.
Go back, please,
Yep.
one.
Nope. I saw I wrote a note.
Yeah,
20%.
okay, well, the prior slide, the capital budget, 693. Last year was 867. So when you say just compare capital budget year over year. And then of all the operating funds, if you say just let's look at the general fund, that went up just slightly, 0.8%.
Got it.
Yeah. So we're just kind of dissecting it.
I think it's important
Yeah.
to communicate that. And we're going to go through the CIP and how that 20% happened.
Right, yes, sir, we will. I think that's the fourth workshop.
Okay. And then can somebody later have a conversation with me about the code compliance increase through the vacant building registration? I don't think I
Yeah.
was around for that.
We should do it right now. Is Michael Dice here?
Somebody just kind of talk about where it went.
Yeah,
I
there we
think
go.
that was a big deliberation 5, 7, some years
Right,
ago.
sure was.
And
Yeah, the city
I
council
suspect
approved a
there's going to
vacant.
be interest in that,
Right.
that revenue.
Well, with all the heavy hitters in the room, I appreciate code compliance coming first. Michael Dice, Development Services, code compliance. So yes, a few years ago it was considered. It did not go through at that time. We are looking at ways to help manage the vacant building problem we have in the city, increasing those fees and getting the typically out of city owner to be compliant and keep up with that. It is a burden, and so we're trying to make sure that we weigh, public safety, the view of the city, and making sure we have revenue and engaged ownership.
And what's the stated purpose of that effort? I mean, when we say, hey, we're going to implement the code compliance, vacant building registration, why do we do that? What's the goal in that effort?
The goal is compliance. We want to make sure that absent owners, which typically are the bulk of any vacant building, keep their buildings safe, secured, maintained, and that's kind of gone to the wayside. With some cuts that we've had to abatement, it's a little bit harder to maintain those and then lien a property, which you only get back that money once it's sold. So this really engages the vacant property owner. It allows us to manage and keep track of those a little bit better. And again, hopefully it has a positive. I don't want to make money on vacant buildings. I want vacant buildings to go away. That way it develops the city.
And so the concern is that if I'm next to a vacant building and it's not well kept, then it impacts my, my lifestyle.
I would say
I thought there was some police and fire.
They're always out investigating vacant buildings that aren't secured.
Okay.
If we haven't secured it for whatever reason, it's up to the property owner. It's their responsibility. But, a number of fires that we've had recently have all been vacant buildings.
Is that right? Okay. Because, generally, you're supposed to keep track, you take care of your own property, and if you don't, then you guys show up and fine me. I take care of my piece. That came out wrong. Other people that don't take care of their property.
Understood,
they
yes.
get fined.
Yes.
I think there's going to be a lot of conversation on this. I think there'll be some pushbacks, and I just don't remember, how it came about, why it came about. I do recall some conversation with maybe police or fire that it was these vacant buildings are causing a concern.
They are a nuisance.
They're a nuisance, but they're also a concern to neighbors.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
If his vacant house catches on fire, I sure don't want mine, to be a part of that.
And that tends to happen as well. So it's also best practice. Just managing the vacant buildings, the nuisance properties that are out there, the more we can manage and the more that we have the ability to manage, they hopefully go away.
Does that require a database?
Well, we'll manage through spreadsheet at first, but Infor is pretty flexible. That's our permitting software, and through code compliance, we have GovQA. We have lots of different things on the shelf that we can utilize.
Which it's new to me. If there's any additional information you could provide, that would be helpful. I suspect there'll be calls on that issue.
Absolutely.
And I'm running out of time. I'm not aware of the city auditor's additional enhancements. Did we all get that info? I didn't get that information. So, Mr. Chair, at some point, you said it happened after we approved the budget?
So after that audit committee meeting where we discussed the increase for salaries, the auditor's office submitted additional increases to the budget office that they were requesting. And so I'm requesting feedback from the council on how we should proceed.
Okay, well, just as a committee member, I'm not prepared to deliberate or opine on whether that's good or bad, because I don't think it's been provided to the committee. I think that's interesting. All right, next one, because I'm running out of time. Walk me through why the TERS funds proposed budget goes down so dramatically. Is that just because we're not incentivizing projects this year?
It depends on which one you're talking about. A lot of it is just whatever the payment schedule is or what the commitments are, whether we're transferring out to a CIP fund for a CIP project. So those funding kind of ebbs and flows depending on what the commitments are.
Okay, all right, so for instance, type A funds, they went from 34 to 6, is that because that's over? There is no type A?
Exactly. So we had transferred a lot of that money to the CIPs in 25 and 26. The type A only has either, about 6 months worth of funding in there. So there's just not, we were putting all that money to use.
Would that be represented in a 20% reduction in CIP?
That is a portion of it.
20%.
Yes.
The reality is it's because type A went away and it went to type B. We're not spending, we're down in our spending of type B.
It is a portion of that. That is reflected in that 20% reduction, but it's not the sole cause of that, yes.
Got it. Can you provide additional information on that, the reduction in TERS budget from 21 to 16, the reduction in type B funds from 17? Can you just provide some background information for me?
Sure, we can provide a schedule of what we had budgeted in 25 and then what was budgeted in 26, what projects.
And I think lastly, we're eliminating the fee waiver program. Why are we doing that for infill housing? What's the, I thought that was to incent.
That is, right, because we forewent, or we lost $2 million in revenue because of the housing authorities. We thought that they're picking up additional revenue, that they can cover that 100,000.
Oh, got it.
Yeah,
So, but if somebody in the audience wants to do infill housing, last year they would get their fees waived?
There was some, right, development services fees were waived or paid for with this money. And so we had a $100,000 budget. Because we're losing over $2 million in revenue and the housing authority's gaining that, we thought it'd be prudent that they cover it this next year.
I get that, but I would be concerned that, private developments that we're trying to incent to build in infill housing will also be impacted, right?
No, they won't, because they need to go to the housing authority to get the money now.
Got it.
Yeah, so they'll just go to the housing authority, who has picked up millions because of their
Okay, got
policy
it.
directions.
Last thought, run out of time.
Right.
Convention Center Complex Fund, we'll talk about that later, right? Is that going to be discussed in some
I'm
of the?
not sure that we actually have it scheduled for, we'll talk a little bit about it and when we go to the CIP.
Okay.
But
Because we have this new income stream, but, that coming on, right? That the legislature amended to provide additional revenue, no?
for the PFC,
Yeah,
that actually, I mean, we will, that's similar to a TERS where that increment's going to build up. We really aren't, until we have a designated project and that increment builds, we're not recognizing any of that revenue yet.
really? So it doesn't start accruing,
So 24 was our base year.
Yeah.
And so 25, going into 25 would be our first increment. So it would only be the small, like I said, like a TERS, it has to build that increment because it's only over revenues generated over the base year from the hotels, from hotel occupancy. The other thing is that we still need to bring forward the designated project. You have to have a designated project to start receiving those funds. We have to file that with the comptroller's office. And so that's something that we will be bringing forward, start working through that with city council after we get through the budget project process.
Well, I have 6 seconds. That's it for me. Thank you.
And Mayor, if I can, if there's any questions that are not answered here at the podium, or in the case of additional information is asked for, as part of the budget workshops, we'll send out one follow-up memo covering all the questions raised. And so over the next several weeks, at least once a week, you'll get a memo that details the question and then has the response, or the request for information and then has the response. So we have staff that are tracking the questions.
Perfect.
And what the goal is to try to answer everything here, but if we can't, we make sure we do via a weekly memo. That'll help you. Yeah.
Thank you
Okay.
for including that. We have Councilman Hernandez online who has a comment or question. Councilman?
Yes, good morning. I want to also reiterate on that the issue we had with the property registration. We actually voted that down, that because it was an additional fee on properties that was, I don't think we're going to be doing property registration for vacant houses, are we?
Oh,
Yeah, we'll have Michael Dice answer that. And Michael, when you, if you can you also give the definition of what's vacant? What's a vacant property? We don't want this to be misconstrued if you're changing tenants, that's vacant.
No, these are houses that are already on the radar that we're already maintaining either through board ups, abatements. We have approximately about 1,000 homes that we know are vacant in the city. These tend to be nuisance properties. These are not, a house that's for sale that no one lives in. These tend to be, again, nuisance properties.
Okay, so we have a process where we go through the whole, rigmarole. What is this? What would having people register their property actually do, other than just be a revenue source?
Well, it tends to be much like a speeding ticket for speeders. It tends to be a way to get people to get in line and maintain their properties by having the database and a better managing of it.
Well, you have all the information for every property in the appraisal district, right? You have all this information. What's the fee for?
Again, the fees to help with the consistent investigations. We have repetitive inspections. We inspect
But we
every
fine for
neighborhood
those,
complaint.
right? Those are code violations that we fine for. So what, I mean, this is a fee on top of a fee.
Yeah, those are potential fines.
Right, potential, but Councilman,
Potential
this is
fines.
Peter, so everything Michael said is accurate. To add to that, it provides revenue for additional services that are rendered at these properties.
Correct.
The fire chief may want to talk, but just this week, his crews in the middle of the night had to put out a fire at a vacant home, obviously boarded up, and then impacted 3 other vacant structures next to it. We're not getting any money for that call for service.
But wait a minute.
Yeah.
These properties, I'm assuming that are on the tax rolls that pay property taxes, which pays for the fire department. Am I incorrect?
We can't answer that. They may be delinquent in their tax payments. You know, a lot of these are property owners that.
Well,
live
then
in the
they
city.
become property of the, they get repossessed and we sell the property. I mean,
At some point,
right. I mean, I get what you're, the idea is here to try to generate revenue, but we're putting fees on top of fees. And I understand it's a nuisance, but that's why we have code enforcement to assign citations. We specifically withdrew this out of the property registration out of the historical building, or well, I forget what ordinance that was. But I mean, we're having fees upon fees that they're already paying property taxes for particular services is not the right way to do this. If we have a process to expedite issues with nuisance homes, and let's look at the process, not just add fees for the sake of adding fees.
Well, again, the proposal is not for the sake of adding fees. We do a number of abatements throughout the year on these properties, be it lawn maintenance, board ups, cleanups, and we have a burn rate of about $40,000 per month currently. And based on our current budget, as you all know, we issued a memo in June. We burn through our annual by March, April of every year. So this helps with that to help supplement some of those board ups and property maintenance.
Okay, well, I'm not for property registration. I think we have all the information needed for this kind of stuff. So, yeah, well, we'll move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Roy.
Thank you for your presentation. Councilmember Scott actually asked a couple of questions that I was going to ask, but I want to kind of reiterate a few things. First of all, this is probably just for my knowledge alone. The TMRS 8% increase, I was reading where it's mandatory contribution. And I'm thinking, like, my wife's a teacher, and so they give into the TRS system, but when they do that, they don't pay Social Security. And I was just wondering, for my own knowledge, do the city and fire net, do they pay Social Security too also?
Civilian and police do, firefighters do not.
Okay, I just wondered, because of the fact when I saw that it was mandatory, I thought, oh, that's interesting. But it's mandatory for the police, fire, and the other employees of the city?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So fire has I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, yeah.
Fire has a separate retirement system. Firefighters, the sworn firefighters aren't in TMRS, but the employees that are in TMRS, it is a mandatory 8%, it would be 8%.
Okay, that's just good to know. The other thing is, if you could clarify on the audit software, purchasing of the new software, but then there's an annual renewal fee for that?
There's an annual subscription or renewal fee of $25,000 per year, which is pretty, having an annual subscription fee for hosted software is common. The $7,000 was the one-time implementation.
So $7,000 to implement, $25,000 a year to renew the software.
Yes, sir.
Did that go out to, I'm just curious, did that go out to bid?
I'm not sure what process.
I see
The auditor just came in, so maybe George, he could answer it.
Yes, sir. This software is really critical. It's going to allow for increased security within the application. Audit efficiency will be enhanced, data integrity, and the risk of data loss will be significantly reduced. The current software reminds me of Windows 95. So it hasn't been updated. It's really archaic. And we did go to bid. Yes, we got other bids.
So you got other bids? How many bids did you?
Yes.
How many people responded?
Well, again, it was 25,000, but we had one other bid, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you had one other bid,
Yes.
and then you guys selected this particular company. So
That's
every
correct.
year, we're going to pay $25,000
Yes.
for the software.
Excuse me, no, it's not budgeted, Councilman, so the decision hasn't been made by the council to increase the budget to allow for the software.
Okay.
Yeah, it came in after the audit committee meeting, who endorsed, excuse me, I'm almost done. It came in after the audit committee, who endorsed the budget recommendation of 96,000 increase to the budget. Subsequent to that meeting, George presented information to the budget director. And so we, absent of the audit committee hearing it, we thought we'd bring it to the full council to get input. Right now, it's not budgeted.
So we're going to have a separate discussion on that? I don't want to take any more time.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, we did actually include it in our audit committee packet. We just ran out of time before we could address it.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then the other question I had right now is that I saw, so there's a decrease, oh, that's not for you, sir. This is a question that has to do with special revenue. So the projected TERS, we're going to get a decrease in the of $4.9 million for the TERS funds?
That's
on
correct,
page
Councilman.
48.
Yeah, that's correct.
I know that there's conversation about the possibility of adding another TERS. And you're,
I'm sorry, just to clarify, so this slide that reflects the 4.9 decrease, that is for expenditures, not for revenues. So that it's our expenditure budget for the TERS. And the slide doesn't say that, that's my fault. We
okay, that's
add
kind of
that.
what threw me
Yes,
off
sir.
there. So
Yes,
that,
sir.
okay, explaining that, then that answered my question.
Yes, sir.
Can we do, can you, for the record, amend that at some point?
Yes, sir.
Just so that, 6 months from now when I'm reading this, that I'll remember.
I'll send out an update.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Okay. Councilwoman Campos.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted a little bit more clarification on page 6, where it lists the 51.1% for the police and fire, and then on the other departments, it has 76.7, and it combines, all the departments on the side. Is there any way you can include the actual percentage for each department on this wheel,
I can provide that to you as a follow-up. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
that would be great. Okay, and also when I was looking at the 51% police and fire, how is that in comparison with other cities our size? Is that pretty average? This seems like we keep going up on the police and fire, not that I don't appreciate what they do, but I'm just thinking of our budget overall, if we're in line with some of the other cities that spend that amount of their general budget on the police and fire. How do we compare?
I don't have that data in front of me, but we can look into that.
Okay, I would appreciate that. It seems kind of high, but I could be wrong. Okay, the other item, I guess page 51, which would be the residential street fund. I know it's, we did away with that fund And I did hear our city manager did state that there was going to be an increase. Did you say 11% back to the residential?
Right, so
street?
in this proposed budget, streets funding will increase by 11% or 14 million, but that's because of the bond program project, 35 million for residential streets. Once that's exhausted in this budget, there's going to be a cliff where we're going to be down about $16 million recurring revenue in streets. So there'll be, and Ernie's going to show you this. He and I met on it Monday or earlier this week. But so the discussion we want to have when we have the streets conversation in our third workshop is just that, which is that unless we put more bond program projects on the next bond program, we will have half as much money for streets.
And that's what I'm concerned about.
We are
because
too.
we're,
Right.
we've been doing a whole lot better since, really in the last 6 years, I guess.
Right, especially the last 4 since Ernie's been here.
With the rapid response,
Yeah, so-
or the rapid.
Rapid
pavement.
paving, just to help you out here. So initially, before Ernie started, to fix all neighborhood streets would take 60-plus years.
I remember.
Ernie came in, did months and months of analysis, recommended to us and the council the rapid paving program. That dropped the time down to 12 years. With the work he's doing now and the contractual work that's being done, it actually has reduced to 8 years. By 27, though, if we don't get any more revenue, it's going to go back up to 30 years, 32 years to get all the neighborhood streets. So we'll lose ground. So we do want to have the conversation with you. We didn't recommend it in the proposed budget, the street user fee, but since the council goal-setting session and today, we've heard a lot from council members who want to recommend that. So we're going to bring that to you in the workshop about that street user fee that generates about 13 million. Because without that, you'll see degradation in the work that's been achieved to date.
Okay. Well, and on that note as well, I've been a big proponent of sidewalks, and I'm not giving up. So I'm hoping that maybe we'll be able to figure out how we're going to be able to do that, and maybe that might be the possibility of if we revisit the residential fee. Let's see, I also am grateful that our media, department, Elise, was able to have something so that the community could be informed about the input sessions. This is really where I feel that, we need to shine, and we need to be able to hear what our residents are requesting and what it is that, that is missing. I have my list, which is, making sure that our water is charged equally, because the reality is that the residents only use 20% of the water, but yet we're going to be expected to finance the whole thing. And I'm saying the whole thing, I'm saying that, the commercial and the industrial use about 80% of our water. So that's going to be a huge impact on our, I know it's not here in the budget, but it will be discussed, and it's something that we need to keep in mind. And the other is just making sure, and I'm so glad to see Animal Care Services, their budget, increased. The spay and neutering is so essential and needed. So I was glad to see that. Again, we just, I'm open. It doesn't look too bad, but I'm here to listen to the constituents, and if there's anything that I'm missing, please contact me. My number is 361-687-7259. Thank you.
Right, and Councilwoman Campos, thank you for those words. So it's $250,000 for the spay neuter services and animal care. And the total amount added in the budget is, as Amy said, it is on top of the mid-year adjustment. So this, based on council policy input, we're adding to that department again. And many departments don't have any improvements and have reductions instead, so that's good for animal care.
I agree.
And we do appreciate the words on the community input sessions. We started those 6 years ago, and we continue. We've actually grown the number, so we'll have 7, one in each of the districts, one in the island, one at Cal Allen. And they don't, you can live in any district and go to numerous ones. You can go to every one if you want. We'll also have them on YouTube or on our social media channels. We know that in Lindale, there'll be a watch party there. The staff scheduled the District 2 one at the Greenwood Center, which is a little bigger, but we know Lindale's is a popular place, so we'll have a simulcast event there when we do the District 2 one. And then I was going to see if Drew can come down, we want to make sure we get those water percentages right, because they tend to perpetuate in our community meetings. But Drew, can you just remind us on the percentages of water in total, how much of our water goes to industry, how much goes to residential and commercial?
Yeah, so Drew Malley, Chief Operating Officer for Corpus Christi Water. I mean, we'll be getting into the details of that with lots of specifics. But I will tell you, Councilwoman, and we'll talk a lot more about this, but our water rates are based on a cost of service. So everybody pays what it costs for us to provide water to them.
Right.
So we will show you the details. We've been doing this over the last couple of years. We know that there's been some changes to how we calculate that cost of service. Just as a reminder to you and obviously the community who's very interested in this, is that over the last couple of years, we've brought in a different company who does this rate analysis, and they've done that rate analysis, and it's taken some time to get all the different customer classes essentially paying their true cost of service. And we are there now. And so ultimately, the different customer classes are paying their cost of service. And so nobody is getting anything for less than what it costs us to serve them. And we'll get into those details. But industry use a majority of our water. They use 60%. And it changes every year, because every year, different customer classes use different amounts of water. And so we will absolutely present that in the next week, and we can get into the details about how the costs are allocated.
Okay, well, I really do appreciate your work. I know that y'all are working 24 hours a day. I mean, I know y'all are busy. But let's also be accurate in this. Yes, we do raise those rates, but then at the same time, we have industry that turns around and then challenges those rates, and it's not the same for inside the city limits. We can't do that, but had they been annexed, then they wouldn't have been able to do that. So I'm not going to stop on this, that it's not equal, because it's not equal. And now they've even changed the law to where it had to be, 70% of the people that were outside the city limits, and now I believe it's only 1 that they can challenge that. And just one more thing about the Lindale, if I may. I do want to apologize to the Lindale neighborhood, because they are a very active neighborhood, and I'm sorry that we weren't able to get another budget, but the next best thing is the watch party, and I hope that they'll participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Well, just for the record, we need to go back to Lindale next year. The issue is we already put the information out as publicized of going to Greenwood, so we do apologize for that. But next year, the Lindale's that's the go-to spot. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
On that note, Peter, would you please make sure that we get the numbers of attendance? I don't recall ever seeing that.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see the number of people that attend every single one of these budget work, community input sessions.
Absolutely. Generally, what we do is after the 7, like last year, we'll do a presentation of generally what we heard in the 7 events, and then we summarize how many people in total, but we'll do the breakout, so you'll know how many at each of the events.
Yes,
we give a total number, but we track it, so we'll report that to the council.
That'd be great.
Yes,
Thank you. So Councilwoman Vaughn, and then we have Councilwoman Paxson next online.
Okay. I'm not a fee-happy person, and I feel like we are fee-happy today. You've got 5 new fees for the fires, 7 for the animal, 8 for parks. So I have a real concern with that. I think I want to address parks first. I'm not picking on you. I just want a little bit more information. Okay, the teen and youth camps, you increased that by 26%. Tell me about that. I mean, are these underprivileged kids, or where are these held
And
at?
this is at Oso Bay.
Okay.
The fee increases, these haven't been increased since 2018, most
Okay.
of them. And so just for the service that we provide there at Oso Bay for these parties and camps that we have, we have to have staff there, we have to have things for the kids to do and things like that. So all of that has increased over the last 7 years, I guess. So
So are y'all leading these camps?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the birthday parties the same way, or people renting facilities?
They're some renting facilities at Oso Bay, and then obviously we're there, we have staff there as well as we provide, things for the party.
Okay. The classroom rental, what is that about?
That's the classroom inside the facility itself. So it's an open space, just like most of our places. If it's available, obviously people can go in and use it. But if you want to go on a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock to have your birthday party, this assures that this will be available.
So they have to rent it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the vendor permits really concerns me. So you went up $50 for McGee and North and Gulf Beach and Cole. Why did y'all do that? Because y'all aren't doing anything, are you?
No, ma'am. These are the vendor fees for food trucks, merchandise, beach rental equipment. So they pay us to be down there. And so again, this increase was last done in 2021. And again, it's not like they just show up to our office and we give them a permit. There's a process that goes through. We work with the health department, we work with other facilities. So there's work on our end to do those. So the increase is part of that. It's part of our staff time as well.
You don't think that discourages vendors from going down there when you have a fee so high? Because it's high. I mean, for food trucks, I wouldn't think their revenue is huge.
I don't know what their revenue is,
Yeah.
but again, we've looked at other cities. We've looked at, other places that vend out food trucks, and we're pretty comparable, if not on the lower end.
Okay. And special events, what are they renting there? What are these places that hold 1,000 people?
That would be a park, Water's Edge Park maybe, or, when we have certain events down there. And I would say and I'm sorry, we do have a lot of fees, so I'm looking, say that one more time, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I was talking about the rent, like 1,000 attendees. Are you charging for your people? Is that $450 for them to clean up?
Yes, ma'am. So this is the permit fee for small permits, like I said, 0 to 500 people. Those would be at parks. We had a big Juneteenth festival at Water's Edge Park where they had huge amounts of people there, and so they're charged by, the possibility of attendees there.
So we're charging them to use the parks to have attendees, is
And
what we're doing.
again,
that
these are
we
open
pay taxes
spaces.
on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, these are open spaces, but this guarantees them to have that, that festival for 3 days or certain time frames, things like that.
Okay.
But, excuse me, Councilman, the fees are meant to offset the cost for
Yes.
providing extra service at a park when there's a
Yes,
major
sir.
event. So
Yes.
you're having to bring people in that you normally don't for cleaning of the park prior and after.
Right.
Parks, security, that type of thing.
Exactly. Staff time.
And that's basically what I asked.
Yeah,
is
that's
for your
right. And we didn't
personnel.
answer it. So that's what
Yeah.
it's not just to collect a fee and issue a sticker. It's to help offset the cost of increased costs because of a special event where they're bringing in more staff to clean the park, they're disposing of garbage, there's a
Yes.
security component, there's general maintenance, so it's to help offset the cost for the special use for that park.
And I hope we tell them that, because it sounds like we're charging them to use a park that they pay taxes on. That's I don't like that, because it's their park.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you for clarifying
Yes,
that.
sir.
When we have festivals like this or things going on, there's cleanup before, there's staff time, administration time in the office, and again, the cleanup as well. We spend a lot of time after hours. If a festival goes till 9 or 10 o'clock, our people are out there that late.
And I get that.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
get that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm not picking on the fire, but I kind of am. Okay. How many firefighters do you have?
Brandon Wade, Fire Chief, Corpus Christi Fire Department, we have 455.
450. How many police, Chief Markle? 501. Okay, just want to get it clear. Okay, you know why I have a problem with this? It's because it's ambulances, and they go pick up in the big fees. You made $500,000 last year, it looks like. Good for y'all, you guys, and it was probably on EMS, like you said. But most of these people that you probably pick up are elderly. They're probably on, their insurance doesn't pay all of this. So that's a concern for me. And I know it looks like a really small increase. Have y'all been doing this every year, increasing gradually? You weren't here, so you don't know.
I wasn't here. I'm going to bring up the expert on it, and he could put you to sleep on ambulance service fees. But here we go. This is Chief Urban. So Chief Urban.
Yes, ma'am. Kenny Urban, Deputy Chief Fire Department. Good morning. And can you restate your question about
I forgot
elderly?
it. I said, did you, I really do remember it. Have you been increasing it every year?
Yes, in our ordinance, and we redid a way we do entirely on how we bill for ambulance services in fiscal year 2017 to a more appropriate and more efficient way. And these numbers, the fee schedule that we charge for various different things, base rate and oxygen and those, are what is dictated by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which covers Medicare and Medicaid, and sets ground rules for all insurances. And these fees that we charge in our ordinance represent the gross cost of what it costs the city to provide the services. And those are our gross charges, and those are allowed to go up by ordinance, and according, our current ordinance is the Consumer Price Index for medical care in the South region. And that is represented as a whole in the nation as a number called the ambulance inflation factor, and which is we're allowed to increase. And just in the insurance code in Texas, they just passed a bill that says we can increase our base rate, our fees, by the ambulance inflation factor. And I just wanted to cover that. So those are gross charges that we charge and represent the cost of the city to provide the services per call. Now, 47% of our customers are Medicare, which are elderly. 17% are Medicaid. It adds up to, it fluctuates year to year. About 62 to 63% are covered by government insurance, which includes Medicare. They have mandatory adjustments on our gross charges down, and those are about 60% of that goes down to what they're allowed to pay. And that gives the net charges to our patient, which if in Medicare or elderly. That equates to about $320-something for that service. Now, state law and state insurance code says we can't balance bill, and we do not, right? Most insurance ambulances are considered out of network, and that state law says we can't balance bill, meaning that that patient's only responsible for what Medicare and their copay is. And that is, so that reduces down what these fees are, down to a very small amount on what that patient can afford and what they're responsible for. And we cannot, by state law, bill anything past that.
Over what they have?
Yes. So in general, our fees that you see, the increases, are what's representative of what it costs the city to provide the service and what is allowed by state law and our ordinance to increase to represent our cost.
Okay, so Medicare and Medicaid are different.
Yes.
Medicare, it does not increase because they can't pay it. Medicaid, I get them confused. I'm not up there yet.
Yeah.
Medicaid is the one that elderly get, and they do have to pay a cost, right?
Medicare is what you're most usually eligible at 65.
Yeah.
You get on Medicare. That is 47%. Give or take, depending on the fiscal year, representative of our patients that we treat and transport. 16% are on Medicaid, which is our low-income government-funded. The government-funded are Medicare and Medicaid, and that represents about 62% of our population.
Okay, well, that's my concern, because I know the insurance rates are ridiculous right now that everyone's paying, and then they get a $3,000 bill.
Yes.
Aside, I mean, you're talking about the rest of the population, which is craziness. So,
Yes.
so I am concerned about that, and I'm sure you are too.
Yes.
Okay.
And just to address that concern, because I know that's not just elderly, I know that's one of the other things. 3/4 of our patients that we transport, roughly 75%, carry some type of insurance. So we stated already that 47% are Medicare, about 16% are Medicaid. About 13%, give or take, is on our private insurance, like Blue Cross Blue Shield and those types of things. The rest of the 25% of our population that we treat or transport do not have insurance at all. Now, we as a city have a charity care policy that was put in place as a requirement for Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services for reimbursement on uncompensated care. And that represents about 25% of our population. So even if when we pick up a patient, we're agnostic to whether or not they're covered by insurance or what type of that is. We're going to treat and transport them the same as anybody else. And we are concerned about what the burden is on what it costs for those individuals. But we're also concerned on being good stewards of our taxpayers' dollars and getting those reimbursed as much as possible. So that has our charity care policy. So a patient that we pick up doesn't have insurance. We find that out after the fact. Our policy with the city and the ordinance or charity care policies, we write that off 100%. But they have to have been covered under no insurance. They have, they meet certain requirements, and we take that write-off, that charity care that we do, and we submit that through the state of Texas Department, DSHS, which is funded through CMS, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and we get that in what we know as the task fund, right? So the charges that you see are just representative of what it costs us to provide that services so that we're not subsidizing indirectly to our taxpayer.
Okay, you got it down. Okay, the only other thing that I was going to ask you is the ambulances or the fire trucks, they go to every accident?
They do not.
They do not anymore? Didn't they
when
used
you
to?
say accident, like it all depends. So vehicle accidents, yes, more than likely they're going to go to the vehicle accidents, but based on the call priority, you may just get an ambulance, and then sometimes based on the call priority, you also get the fire truck to respond so that you have a crew to be there.
So let's just say you go to a wreck.
Yes.
Nobody's hurt. Are you charging those people?
No.
No.
So if a fire truck,
it's just a service.
right, if a fire truck shows up, nobody is usually getting a bill unless you're outside the city limits, and then
Okay.
We have an ordinance for that. So
right.
it's the bill that usually gets sent is when we're doing transports.
Just making sure.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Chief Markle, you're next. It's real simple. I just want to know, I see that you increased for basic courses. Tell me, who pays that? Do they pay it for going through the academy, or is it
the responding agency? So remember, one of our goals when we built this great academy, thank you for that, it's wonderful, was to bring outside agencies in and host the training.
Yes.
So when we send our detectives off to like a Reed investigation, homicide investigation school, or some other city that's hosting because they have a nice facility, we charge per seat. Could be $1,000 per seat, plus per diem, all those things. Now we host them here, and we bring those, we get free seats because we host, and we charge the agencies that send their officers here.
Okay, that's revenue.
Yeah, that was one of the goals, pre-planned. It's already in progress. We'll shake it out at the end of the year to see how well we've done for our revenue streams. It's working. Federal agencies, local agencies have all been utilizing our facility.
Well, you may pay for that academy before it's all over.
Well, we're working at it.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. And now we have Councilwoman Paxson online.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to start by thanking Peter and his team, our executive team, for recognizing the overall conditions of our budget and the interests of this new council, and taking that very strongly into consideration with this budget. So I have to thank you for those efforts, Peter, and your staff. And I did just get your response. I was curious about the litter critter. I know that was one of the expenditures we were talking about, but it looks like you were able to save that on there. And then I wanted to echo a little bit on a similar thread with Councilwoman Campos. Recently, we met with the Flower Bluff Independent School District to look at the implementation of their bond packet, and a big part of that they brought to our attention is the importance of being able to increase sidewalks connectivity. Also in our district, one of the big interests is the mobility plan. Sidewalks play a huge role in that. In talking to our teams, I know that in the 311 system, there's been over 700 correspondences related to community members concerned with sidewalks issues. And so, Peter, I think we talked about a couple of things that could be down the line, some potentials to look at sidewalks. So that's something, I know we don't have that in the budget right now, but perhaps in the months to follow, we can look at what are some options for that. Because it's an important piece, and our city is growing, and our community, is wanting to stay connected in effective ways, and it really does impact the quality of living, and especially when we get to talking about school districts and things like that. And so that was my first comment. Another item, I know Councilwoman Vaughn brought up a concern that I had with this is the increase of fees. For me specifically, I have a little bit of concern where the fees are increased in those program contacts with the community. When we're looking at the after-school programs, we're looking at attendance for programs, those types of things, like the OSO Learning Center. I know it looks like small increases, but we seem to be applying that in a lot of different areas, and it would be my preference if we could look at potentially other options for closing those gaps there, because that is a concern to me. That's something that the community will feel firsthand. And I know that the team has tried to keep those increases minimal, but they are still there. And so I do echo Councilwoman Vaughn with a concern there on those increases. So I don't know if that's something that we can look at, Peter, if there's other areas perhaps. I do understand the increases to the rentals. I think you had on there some like private party rentals at the water parks, things like that, where they're very revenue driven expenditures. The parks, those are open spaces. And so that's a difficult one, but it makes a little more sense than the individual attendance to programs or after school camps or programs like that. That's just a concern to me. And then lastly, I did want to make a quick comment. You said we would come back around at some point to the section of the budget pertaining specifically to the audit committee. I did want to just make the comment that even though it wasn't discussed at length in our last audit meeting, the information was in the packet. And I feel like as a member of that committee and of this team, the city team, I think that we could have perhaps approached how we brought up that request a little bit differently. I think that could have been handled a little differently, Peter, other than walking up and saying, there was additional requests made after the audit meeting, something like that. I'd like us to all look at the budget process cohesively, recognize that all departments have needs and need to have an arena to bring those forward. And certainly if that was something that was supposed to be discussed at a meeting and perhaps for time or whatever other reason didn't get to be evaluated at that point, that could have been explained with a little bit better integrity for the situation as a whole, because it was included. But yeah, so going back to your statements that we'll evaluate that at another time, I'll save the rest of my comments for that. But those are my big things, is keeping sidewalks down the line as a priority, and then looking at these fees in our parks and playgrounds.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Good. Yeah, Mayor, can I just, sure. Councilwoman Paxton, so one of the things we talked about with the Flower Bluff superintendent and the board chair is, and we talked about it at the last bond program, is looking at doing some type of a sidewalk initiative, and in this case it'd be bond 2026. So we need to get serious about that as a council, because we continue to hear it. And we've seen pictures of some real degraded sidewalks or complete missing of sidewalks, as an example on Flower Bluff. So Ernie is aware. And so we're going to internally gear up to develop some type of a recommendation for bond 2026 it could be in each of the 5 districts. It could be just in Flower Bluff. It could be just in D2. But we'll work on that to present to council in these coming months. That would probably be outside of the budget, a next opportunity for sidewalk funding, should the council want to include something like that in the bond program. And that's what we talked about with the superintendent and with the meeting with Councilwoman Paxson. And then Councilwoman, just it's important to note that the OSO Learning Center, given that the city council last year doubled the homestead exemption and for the general population and increased the senior homestead exemption, the city went about 13 million in property tax revenue. And we had to make some tough choices last year to present to city council to reduce the spending of the city, because without 12 million, you can't do everything you did the year before. So we looked in parks, and the OSO Learning Center is somewhat of a unique service in parks. And it does have a certain clientele that utilize it more frequently than others. And so we tried to, in this budget, make it and last year we tried to have another entity help us sponsor it and generally give money that we didn't have to keep it going. So in this year's budget, the initiative is to kind of make it a self-sustaining operation, so that if somebody wants to come in and rent it or come to a camp or have a birthday party, that they would pay a fee. And it's not a massive fee, but a fee to help offset the cost. We also have a partner, the Bays and Estuaries, who's willing to sponsor over $100,000 to help us keep that operation open. So we'll continue to have that dialogue in the OSO Learning Center. And then
I do, Peter, I really do appreciate, I don't mean to interrupt, I appreciate that staff was able to take initiative and find some funding resources to offset the cost for that. My hat's off to them, because I think that from early conversations this spring, conveying and working with staff on the value and importance that facility brings to the district and to the city. I think they really listened and took it to heart and found some opportunities there. But I think it's just the beginning. I think that's a huge asset to the city, and I think that there's a lot more opportunities to continue to find partners that can work with us there. And so that's, I think, for me, another big priority, that we continue that dialogue and look for offsets for that.
Yes, and that'll be the goal. The Bays and Estuaries may become even a bigger sponsor. This is their initial conversation that they have had with Heather. So we know with the Trestle Bridge that's fully funded, that it'll help to connect the peninsula, Flower Bluff, to the Oso Bay. So we do want to keep it open. It's just a matter, as you'll hear again and again me say in the budget process, it's a choice that the council and the staff has to make. And balancing the budget and keeping all the services the same is a delicate balance. So. And then on the auditor, my apologies, I was unaware, just for the record, that there was something in the packet. I didn't read the packet entirely that day, so my apologies if we didn't fairly represent, the integrity of what happened there. But we'll continue to work with George and the council on those requests. I personally was unaware that it was in the packet. We spent, I think, 3 hours on the $96,000 adjustment to the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And
thank you for that.
Yeah, so just to put it on record. And Councilwoman Campos asked me yesterday, just also the salary adjustments, we'll look to see, generally that money is available October 1. But we know that George wants to adjust salaries now, so we'll see if there's a solution for that, to see if we can make those effective right now in this fiscal year, Councilwoman. Yeah, we talked.
Peter, I thank you. I really do. I know I'm running out of time. I had one more thing, and I apologize because I don't have the timer in front of me.
Councilwoman, I'm sorry. The timer went off, but you do have another time to speak.
Okay, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And Peter, just on that note, we did have a whole conversation a year or so ago regarding sidewalks. Something was presented to us by Mr. De La Garza regarding a feasibility study that would have been citywide, or maybe doing one, an assessment, I should say. So, for whatever that's worth. But I think every district has issues with sidewalks.
Yeah,
so I think we don't have to go into it now, but I'm just saying that conversation has begun some time back.
It has,
and
you're
there
right.
was some information given to us back
Absolutely, you're correct. And we'll have Ernie repeat that when he presents the third budget workshop. It was $1 million estimate for the feasibility study, which we don't have. So, but there's got to be some workaround to. Well, I think we're going to recommend to include money in the bond program, and maybe that also is some of the feasibility study money. But
Yeah.
it's to a point where we got to do something.
Well, and that's the point to these meetings, is prioritizing.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
What we need to get done.
Right.
Thank you. Councilman Barrera.
Okay, Mayor, thank you. Just real quick, I had the pleasure of testifying before the Texas Senate with regard to the rate cap, and the majority of those individuals were basically stating that how it would affect police and fire, and there were many of them that said up to 60% of their operating budget was covered, was police and fire. What is it, a majority in Fort Worth, Dallas, Austin testified, and even some of the smaller communities. But pretty much the majority, I said that more than 50%. Senator Royce West also mentioned that the majority of the people within that DFW area, it's in excess of 51%, so I just wanted to clarify that. On the audit committee, the way I recall is that, and we might want to have Elizabeth check the motion, it was to make the adjustments for the range. Now, I do believe that there are some increases merited, but I think that we just need to go back and review that. It was just to make some adjustments to the range so that way we can make improvements. And so our plan is obviously to go through, the process to evaluate, and so that way we can make those adjustments. So I'd just be cognizant of that and just have Elizabeth go back and check, or we go back and review that time. I do believe that we ought to get the software. In fact, I was of the opinion that we ought to get a more robust system as far as the software. I think that's very important. The system we have right now is quite antiquated. It's not user-friendly, and it's actually been a waste for the last 10 years because it's very hard to recapture the data. So that's something that I'm very much in support of. I know right now we're vacant 2 positions. So I think George, and I know right now HR is recruiting at least 1 person that they've already put that on the street. I'm hoping, yeah, I see the HR nodding back there, so I'll refer that. So just that's something that I think we just need to take a look at that and communicate with the audit department so that way we can be very clear and communicate with Elizabeth. Boo? Just real quick, I just want to ask on the park fees. I know there hasn't been made an adjustment in a long time. I'm just curious. We got a soccer tournament coming up. How much are we charging them?
For McGee Beach?
Yes.
Serge? Just stepped up. If you have another question, we'll wait to.
Okay, the other one is I was going to say and I want to know what the expense was. Because both soccer tournaments, the adult one and the youth one, are a major undertaking.
Yes, sir.
And so here he comes. He's running up here. So I'll keep quiet so I don't use my time. And then how much staff do you have to increase for both of those?
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we normally have the youth soccer tournament, which, what is it? And then we've got an adult one coming up. What are the fees that we charge to be able for those?
So on our normal, if we were for DeLynn and Express Soccer, it would have been close to $5,000 for the use of McGee Beach, plus the permit, plus some of the staff time there. So since they're a nonprofit and I know that they're doing it for their community and for their soccer organization, we waived some of those fees to where it was comparable for them to make some money for the organization and for the kids. And I know talking to DeLynn, they offset some of their cost for that.
And then how much does it cost us?
It probably cost us close to, I would say, around $3,000.
$3,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can get you those numbers for sure.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought that would be more because I know you put quite a few much staff out there and the same thing. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, and I was surprised when I looked through the fees. I went back and looked. When my daughter got married about 10 years ago, we used Heritage Park, and I think the fee was $400. What is it? And what is it right now?
The current fee and the adjusted fee for Heritage Park, and we'll say like Galvan House for rental fee. It's right at 400.
Yeah.
Probably around that same price, yes.
That's one of the things I'm shocked at, and she was married 10 years ago. And so I think there has to be an adjustment, and that's a great deal.
Yes.
I mean, it's a beautiful venue. The lights are beautiful. It's a wonderful venue. I mean,
And how long ago did she get married? I'm sorry.
10 years
10 years ago, okay.
So I understand the consternation, but I think there's a thing that we just tend to be reluctant. We don't understand the pressures that we have to deal with inflation. And what is it? We have to deal with it too. And so what happens is politically, we don't want to move forward on adjusting, at least on the CPI. And then what happens is that the taxpayer is subsidizing that for the individuals that want to utilize it. I mean, obviously I wasn't on the council then, but I capitalized on $400 to be able to use that deal for an amazing venue. So I just think we just need to be conscientious that, particularly when you're telling that story, that you basically come back and talk about CPI and then the fees that they've maintained for at least the last 10 years. The other thing that I just want to clarify on is with regard to the fees with the ambulance service. I just want to say, when you say, no, you don't have to stand up, but if you want to, maybe, but when it comes to balanced billing means we don't bill them for anything different, because whatever Medicare says they're going to pay, we're going to pay. That means we're going to accept. There's no one that gets a bill after that. Also, go ahead and come up. And also, in addition, with insurance, if somebody has insurance, there's no balanced billing with regard to that. So, correct. And I want to also add, I'm going to toot my own horn here, that back in 2021, Congress passed the No Surprises Act, of which I was very much engaged. So that way, even to the point where an individual is in an emergency and it's out of network, then there's a stringent process for us to be able to bill them for that balance.
Correct. Right. The No Surprise Bill Act in the federal and in the state kind of mirror each other. And the discussion we're talking about with the CPI, which, by the way, that was a novel ordinance we had in 17, which is now turned into that state. It's part of the No Surprise Billing Act that had changed, where we're using the CPI, which is now the ambulance inflation factor, is in the same insurance code, No Surprise Billing Act, where we cannot balance bill, and it also addresses how we do our rates, which is how we're doing that.
Yeah, and so I just want to be clear. So we're not charging that to individuals. I just want to say it, on a sixth grade level for my own sake, because that's the way I understand it, is that we're not charging anybody extra. We are not, in other words, by not accepting anything, by accepting Medicare and not balanced billing or not charging back, we're not subsidizing the federal government. So that CPI is subject to what Medicare will charge.
Yes.
And so in addition, the same thing, we're not subsidizing the insurance company, because that's in relation to the contract that we have that is adjusted to CPI.
Correct. There's different adjustments for each payer. Each payer is private insurance, Medicare, Medicaid.
So I know my time is up. I just want to say, number one, you're welcome. Because in my industry, that's the one thing that we're fighting for, so that way we're not subsidizing the insurance companies.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I've got a few questions, and mine are, well, first of all, thank you for this presentation. This is a very good presentation. Thank you for balancing this budget, Peter, and the team, of course. I've got, some of the same concerns in terms of, one of the things that really caught my eye was the monthly first, the fee on parks on the first fee, first child, going from $109 to $125. Summer program weekly fee $99 to $125. You don't need to speak on it. You don't need to speak on it. I understand, to piggyback on some of the comments, we have to cover the cost of service. And I think we might be missing, when you guys are all, if I were in your shoes, I'd be saying, this is the cost of service. This is what we're charging. This is a business, right? So we all know, a lot of us are business owners, and you have to increase to pay for the service. So I have a question, and y'all can follow up. What is the cost of service? Because I think we're kind of leaving that out. What's the cost of service of some of these things we're seeing go up? I don't like to see that go up, but at the same time, we cannot afford to have all residents pay for something that we are not charging enough for, right? The cost of service. So just food for thought there. I've got a few questions, and I'm going to throw these out there, and then we can go back. Mine are more related to the budget line item, or the budget book. On page 108, I noticed that the largest increase in revenue for the general fund is under page 108, under industrial district in lieu. And so my question is, I think we have an increase from 26 million to 32 million. Let's see. So this here, there's an increase there, and I'm wondering, is that expected to continue to go up? You don't have to answer now. I'm going to go to the next question. Can you give me an explanation? You talked about the retroactive COLA. So what is the increase that we're anticipating in giving, right, under that, if you have that today? Also, on page 118, there is a new line item that's called a transfer to debt service, and it's $1 million. And I'm just curious, what is that for? Next page, 119, we under one-time expenditures, one-time item expenditures, we budgeted $13 million there, but I don't see I don't see anything being estimated to be spent in 25 or this current year. So what is that money, or where is that money, or why is that?
Yes, ma'am. So for the industrial district in lieu revenue, that represents the revenue received from our industrial district agreements. So as you recall, last year we went through the process to renegotiate those contracts. The contracts that we have include terms that would have the industrial districts pay 100% of their, what would be property tax to their land value. And it went from 62.5% of the improvements value to 74.5%. And so there is a significant increase in the amount that the industrial district agreements, the terms for how much they pay toward their improvements. Additionally, we have several properties that we have rolling onto the rolls that have reached that 4-year, there's a 4-year period where they do not pay on a property once it comes into service, and in that 5th year they begin to pay. So we had a couple properties scheduled to come onto the calculation this year.
So do we expect that number to continue to rise?
As properties continue to roll on after they complete that 4th year, there will be an increase. The current agreement is for a term of 15 years, so the percentage will not increase. As values increase or as the property tax rate changes, that revenue will change relative to those changes.
Yeah, we do expect it to increase, Mayor, but we don't know. We haven't factored, we don't have a percent of how much.
Not a percent, but just
or dollar value. Like the increase this year over the 25 budget is significant for the 2 reasons. They're paying a higher percentage. Values have increased and new values have come on the roll, so to speak. We'll have to forecast and get you an answer on what do we think would happen in 27. The 27 budget. We don't know that today.
That's what I was
but
looking
we'll have to work with finance and the appraisal district to see if we can get an estimate. But I think generally we can see an increase in revenue each year due to reappraisals and new construction.
Right.
That comes online. There's a 4-year kind of abatement period for new construction, and then on the 5th year it comes on the rolls. And so we know that some of the petrochemical companies are building expansions, and there's no payment for 4 years once the new asset comes online, and then on year 5 they pay the 74.5%, which is a significant increase in that pilot payment in lieu of taxes that we negotiated last year, and it's a 15-year term, so this is a huge win for the city. You can see in that revenue alone, $32 million versus $25 million.
Right.
That helps us to take care of our general fund expenses.
So being we have a balanced budget, we have $6 million.
Yes.
That this is bringing in that we can look into as far as streets, as far as animal care services, or anything else we prioritize.
Right, so the $6 million difference is already assumed in the overall balanced budget. We've already used it, so to speak, right? But it does go to police, it goes to streets, to animal care. It has gone in this recommended budget.
Okay, so it's not available.
It is not available, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Thank you.
And at the time that I presented the preliminary forecast, where we forecasted the $7 million shortfall, we knew about this increase at that time, and it was captured then.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'm going to jump to your last question. The one-time expenses in the adopted budget for FY25 are included in the estimate in their respective departments, and so those numbers would be above. For instance, the transfer to street maintenance is included in the estimate for the transfer to streets fund above that. And then Mr. Rodriguez will speak to your TMRS question.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. Michael Rodriguez, Deputy City Manager. So luckily, with the TMRS change, the total cost for all changes in the proposed recommendation is $40,000 across the entire general fund. Now, you asked what is the change on the retirement COLAs? That remains at 30%. The major difference in this change is the way it's calculated by TMRS.
Michael, it's 30% of the CPI?
It remains at 30%. It's just the way.
But 30% of the CPI?
Of the CPI, correct, yes.
Right. So that means retirees who are on the Texas Municipal Retirement System, based on our plan in that system, a retiree receives a cost of living adjustment that is equivalent to 30% of the CPI.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so that's the amount.
That's something City Council, that was a policy adjustment City Council did a few years ago.
Right.
As part of our collective bargaining agreements.
Right, I recall going back.
Right, yes.
Yeah, no, and that's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, and I believe your other question is related to the $1 million in transfer for debt service. That $1 million will be transferred to our debt service fund, and it is intended for our self-supporting solid waste debt that is paid out of that fund.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Did I forget any?
No, I think I'm checking. No, I think you're good. That you answered all of my questions that I had. Thank you. We're going to move on. Councilman Roy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Earlier, I didn't use all my time, but I forgot to ask a question because I can't read my own writing. When you look on page 49, it talks about engineering services fund, and it went from 13.3 to 17.4. And I want to recall that several months ago, the council was addressed by the engineering department in terms of looking at adjusting. They had additional requests for some additional labor. And at that point in time, I believe the consensus of the council was to kind of wait until we get into budget. And now we're here in the budget. So what I want to make sure, because I couldn't find it, and it could be there, but I couldn't find it. I looked twice. Did we address the increasing your staff, Jeff? I know that you had proposed 20 positions.
That you might recall that failed.
I know.
At council.
That's why I'm asking, and we said that we would bring it back up during budget, and this is budget.
And so what we've done, and this in consultation with the executive leadership team, and one of the things that we heard from council was a preference to try and contract some of the service out rather than adding full-time employees. So what this represents is basically splitting that. Good. And one of the things that we're doing, a lot of times we would charge those outsourced costs directly to projects, just like we charge any other service related, like architectural service or the construction contractor. We've pulled that in so it shows up in our annual budget to accurately reflect that.
Okay, yeah, and I think, if I remember, I was one of the council members that actually proposed splitting that. So that you ended up doing that in terms of your approach.
That's what this is based on.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that and make sure that, because I had a concern. I mean, when you take a look at the overall number of projects that are in your pipeline and your current staffing, I knew we had to adjust something, so thank you.
You just awarded another $100 million one last week.
Yes, sir. Well, good job. Thank you. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention, and we're probably beating this to death, but when it comes to the balanced billing issues, so Chief Urban, if we could address this, I want to make sure, just based on my background prior to being in banking, that's what I used to be in. It was in the healthcare industry, and we talk a lot about the balance where you can't balance bill somebody. But I want to talk about another section. When you send an actual bill out, and I believe it's based on a CPT code, right?
Yeah, ICD-10.
Okay, so it's ICD-10 code, so that's going to show the severity of the actual incident. But when you bill, whether the reimbursement or that fee schedule is different, if you bill for a level 3 type visit. I'm going to use that, try to put it in layman terms. You have to bill, let's just say hypothetically that IC-10 code, you bill $3,000. When that individual that you render services to, you have to bill that $3,000 whether they're Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance, right? You can't sit there and go, oh, that's a Medicaid individual, so we're going to reduce it because we know we're only going to get X amount of dollars. You have to bill them the same amount.
Correct.
And that's the important part, I believe, for the public to understand and anyone that has any questions about the way the system works. And then you have a fee schedule in place where you look at that fee schedule based on the contract. And if it's private, maybe it's United Healthcare or Blue Cross Blue Shield, they're going to reimburse you a certain amount. Now, if it's private, you have different options that in place. But when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid, what we're talking about is you cannot go back and go to that Medicare, Medicaid individual and say, look, they only paid me $500 and I billed them $3. You're on the hook for $2,500.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I wanted to make sure because we weren't really talking about the billing process, and I think that's the important thing, is that across the board, you've got to bill the same.
Correct.
And so the difference is that contractually, you can only get a certain amount.
Correct.
Right. And actually, if I can take it one step further, part of the audit process, if you're audited, is somebody's looking at, did you upcode and say that it was a level 3, but it's really a level 2. And so you're actually subject to that too, where there could be possibility of a reimbursement. So you've got to be able to bill as accurate as possible.
Yeah, there's many facets in EMS billing, and the gross charges that we, like I said, are representative, and as the mayor had spoke as well, representative of what it costs the city to provide the service, and we bill the same regardless of payer, patient, whether they have Medicare, Medicaid. It is very important to charge what it costs you to provide these services, because each of those payers, like you said, Medicare will only pay a certain amount. Our average revenue per transfer for Medicare is about $325. And that is representative of across the board on those charges. And that's why it's very important for us to charge what it costs us. Those payments that they write off will go up as long as it's the average consumer rate on charges. So it's important for us to truly charge what it costs us to provide the service. But they'll contract it, the adjustments down to the patient. That's what is paid by their copay. We cannot, the balance billing between $325 and an average of about $1,500, we don't go back and charge the patient $1,200. That would be a violation of the No Surprise Billing Act.
Thank you. And I just want to make sure we super clarified that. Thank you very much. I got 48 seconds left. The last thing I want to say is that, you know, the city is a business, and fees, in terms of fees, they increase. I understand that. When we look at anything, if I were looking at purchasing an automobile today, and it would be foolish for me to think that I can walk into a dealership today and purchase an automobile in 2025 for the same price that I would pay for it in 2020. So I just want to say that, clarify that we have to be careful. We have to look at the necessity when it comes to increasing our fees. But the reality of life is that nothing, in terms of at least that I've seen, for the most part, is cheaper. You're going to pay more for your homes when you purchase them. You're going to pay more for your automobiles. You're paying more for a gallon of milk. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Vaughn.
Well, Eric, I thought you were on before me. Guess not. Okay. Thank you for that. It was very explainable. And Roland, I would thank you, but I don't know what I'm thanking you for the welcome. So we'll talk later, so I don't know what that's about. But you explained that very well, and I think the public needs to hear it. I'm going to have questions I'm going to have to submit because I've got a lot, because I think there are some other areas that we can cut in, but one of them that I would never consider cutting in is fire and police. I'm very proud of what the city does there. Animal control. So I probably need to talk to them. Will you not time her while she's walking up here? You got to run.
I know, my little legs. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Kathleen Chapa, Director of Animal Care.
Good morning. Okay, my concern, you've got a lot of fees, and I get it, because animal control is a hot mess, that's for sure. Fee for owner-recovered animal, 50% you went up, and the vaccines, you know why I'm concerned about that? Is because we want them to vaccine their dogs. And I think that for me, from what I'm seeing, and there some of the people that have dogs are in lower income areas. And to raise those fees, I have a problem with. I don't have a problem with those impound fees at all, because to me, you're responsible for your actions.
Well, those vaccine fees, those vaccines are given to animals that we impound. It's not a citizen coming in to come get vaccinations.
So you don't, do you give those and give them free?
Not to the public.
Not to the public?
No, ma'am.
Nothing, nada, okay. What is this commercial permit?
So for grooming, boarding houses, if you have a special event, a circus, a carnival, they come in and get permits from us because we have staff that go and inspect.
Say that again.
So if you have, we have a Buck Days. If you have an animal exhibit, you come and get a permit from us, because there's ways that you have to house those animals for those events. And so we send staff to do those inspections to make sure the animals are properly cared for.
Okay. All right, boy, that's a hefty little fee there. I just don't agree. Some of you up here don't have a problem with fees. I do, because I think that we pay property taxes, sales taxes, so many, and I understand the cost of service. I do understand that, but I don't like it. Anyway, okay, that's all for that. Wait, let's see. No, that's it, sorry. Parks and Rec. I promise I'm not picking on you.
No, no, ma'am.
Page 14, the mayor kind of got on the after-hour kid power. Okay, so the kids that stay there, do you find that they're lower income for that? Is that for this price right here for a week? Is it for a month? What's that for?
The 125 is for a month.
A month.
And again, we work with, I think 40% of our clientele in after-hour kid power is Texas Workforce Commission. So we work with them, and we, obviously we get fees from them that they pay. So I would say about 40% is Texas Workforce. And the 125, again, is we looked at other cities, we looked at other facilities that around the city, and it's on the lower end. I personally paid $90 a week for a grandson. So 125 a month, I think, is, and we also offer scholarships. So, and we work with.
Okay, that's good, because that's my concern, because Texas Workforce, I appreciate that you work with them but those people that are bringing them there probably don't make a huge salary. So that's my concern, but that is cheap for childcare. It is, it is. But I saw that you're eliminating 2 positions for the after hour.
And that was just the right size. I think we were top heavy. And so with the schools that we have, with those positions, the area managers, we're going to be just fine. So it's not going to hurt us.
So your cost went down then. I mean, you're not paying as much because you eliminated 2.
And some recreational supplies and equipment, which, you know, was, I guess was, so area manager, I just want to make sure, going back to the area managers, I want to make sure I get this correct. There are over 4 different schools, 4 different places that we're at. So again, we've worked with CCISD, we worked on that. So getting rid of those 2 is just right-sizing that spot where everybody has 4 schools that they're over, those area managers.
So how much money do you think you saved by eliminating those 2 positions?
We have in our notes right here $69,000, and that's some of it with recreational supplies and equipment that we cut in that group too. So about 70,000.
Okay, 70,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me see if I have any more on you. Oh, page 19. Okay, so you have funding to operate and maintain new park systems. Are these park systems all on their parks now? They're already parks that we maintain?
No, ma'am, these are the new parks. These are the Harbor Bridge parks that are being built.
When are they going to be built?
We will bring a construction contract, or Jeff will bring a construction contract next council meeting Tuesday.
So, think they're going to be built for this budget?
We looked at that, and some of that is onboarding these people, getting the equipment before, so getting the the capital outlay, the trucks, the equipment that we need, we're looking within that year time frame. So we're looking at maybe next August. So there'll be some time that when they're finished built.
So you're wanting to add a lot of positions. You've got 18 for the North Side Aquatics Facility, 6 for the harbor and the trails, but what's the trail system? And that's 4.
Again, all those parks in the Hillcrest area will be connected through the trail system and over the bridge over to North Beach. So again, our tourist district group works from Ropes Park all the way to North Beach, and then we're adding 4 new parks, which will put our park system over 200 parks that we have in the city, and so that's what we will. That's what that new group will help with.
But the Harbor Bridge parks, I mean, none of those will be done till the bridge comes down? Do you know?
I don't know that.
No, yeah, Councilwoman, there'll be, some of them will begin, I think all of them will begin now before the bridge comes down. And so next week, as Robert said, we'll have a contract, I think it's $16 million to JE Construction is the low bidder. And what Robert didn't say is the positions are just partially funded for the latter part of next year, 3 to 4 months of salary. And so we do have a timeline to get these parks done to meet federal, the 4-party agreement so that the project can be complete and all the federal money can come in. So the work will begin soon. It's 100% design with the exception of the pool. The trail system includes not only the Harbor Bridge parks, there's 4 that are connected with the Freedom Trail, as the community wanted to call it, through our community dialogue. There's also trails, an extensive trail network in Councilman Hernandez's district, District 5, that has been built with bond program monies, and we need to maintain it. And so the 4 positions will help not only in the inner city here, but also in the District 5 community, where there's an extensive, pretty much private sector developed trail system that we're with this new bond program connecting, making trailheads, and so things like cleaning, maintenance, debris removal, that's what those positions will do.
And I get that. It just seems like an awful lot of positions.
It is, and let's have Robert break down the 18 positions, Robert, break that down for the Aquatic Center. Those are primarily part-time.
Those are, yes.
But explain using the Bill Witt as an example. It's a lot of bodies, but you have to rotate staff. You're open 6 days a week.
For example, to open up Bill Witt on any day, we use 20 lifeguards. With the recreational side and the lap pool side. Mm-hmm. They rotate, they got to have time for rest, water, recuperate a little bit after they make their round. So with the North Side Aquatic Center is not going to be as big as Bill Witt, but we're looking at the size of an existing pool, Collier Pool, in that area, and it's a brand new pool, so we're going to need more lifeguards to help with.
So most of these positions are lifeguards?
Yes, ma'am. I think we have a total of 2 full-time employees in those 18, and then it's 16 seasonal, which will be the lifeguards.
16 are lifeguards?
Yes, ma'am.
And they just work during the pool season, Robert?
Yes, sir.
Right, so that pool, is that planned to be open year-round?
Right now, I think it would be seasonal.
Seasonal?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
It's just a seasonal pool like the other ones.
Right.
Including Bill Witt's the same way, it's a seasonal pool.
Right, yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Councilwoman Vaughn, the one thing we have done in my 6.5 years here is when we do a bond program project, it needs to be staffed and needs to be appropriately maintained, so we bring it as part of the budget process. I'm not sure if that was always done in the past. I've heard the examples of the Fire Station 18 that was built, but that was never staffed. And so that the fire chief then had to pull resources from all around to staff it. So we're mindful of making the recommendation to council that if we promise the public we're going to do a new public infrastructure like a new pool, there comes a financial commitment to operate it at an excellent level,
And I appreciate that, and I agree. I mean, I love parks, but I just don't like adding a whole bunch of people like this.
Yes, ma'am. And also, if I know Peter mentioned a memo that would go out to y'all, I want to make sure I include the rest of that as well. I mean, we got purification chemicals, we got tools and equipment and things like that. We can break that down to you, by lines if you want to see that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sinoni, the discussion has been on recycling. He came up and said we could save $20 million on recycling. I think we need to look at that.
I think was it 20 or 2 or 3 million? What was
Oh, tell me it was 20. That sounds better. Maybe I misheard.
Okay, Philip's here, our director's here.
Was it 2 million?
How much?
2, hey, 2 million is 2 million.
If it was 20, we would have recommended it.
I'm sorry. I'm like Everett. I can't read my own writing. How much does it cost to run that thing? What's the city make or lose on that?
Philip Aldridge, Director of Solid Waste. To run the recycle program's about $7 million.
Okay.
And the cost to process is it's about $138 a ton, but after we sell and do rebates, it's about $60 a ton that we pay to process the recyclables.
Okay. So what's the big number?
The big number? So this is $7 million.
$7 million is the big number?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
But if you were to eliminate, then all the recyclables become garbage, and it would just shift over to the refuse collection side.
yeah, but he's saying that most people don't even use it.
Well, we have each audit that we do, we go out and we count the number of people that set out their cans.
Mm-hmm.
So we have about 88,000 recycled cans out there, and at any given time, 68% people set them out. So
Yeah.
that doesn't mean a participation rate.
Yeah.
Because you might only set your can out once a month, but 68% of the people set their cans out.
I'd like us to delve more into that and see what the figures are, because he
Yeah.
acted like he really knew what he was talking about. Not that you don't.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see some more figures on that. So
Yeah, we
there's
can,
a
and
way
just,
we can cut.
right, the big picture is that it does cost more to recycle. That is no doubt. The prior city council amended twice the recycling contract with our vendor that does this. So on record, it is more expensive to recycle, and it's a community choice. Just to put it in context here, $60 a ton is the net cost to recycle. What is it for garbage disposal?
Garbage disposal, it's probably $26 a ton once you factor in.
Those are the numbers to focus on. So $26 a ton for garbage, $60 a ton for recycling.
Yeah, that's
You know, this one good thing the city has done is purchase a big amount of property for our landfill, the Cefe Valenzuela landfill. So we have 100 years of life in that landfill.
Okay.
Because of that, our disposal costs are lower. Other cities in Texas don't have landfill space and are paying a premium to private sector-run landfills. So we're fortunate here where the forefathers of the council did a real good job buying that over 100 acres, is it? Or 1,000?
2,003.
2,000. So we have a 2,000-acre landfill that has been paid for, and we don't have to pay the private sector for landfill use. But back to the recycling, it is admittedly more expensive. So we actually looked at it last year as a reduction and ultimately didn't recommend it. But it really comes down to a community choice. Do we want to recycle? If we do, we pay more, $60 a ton.
I mean, I recycle, but everybody does not recycle. And your percentage of the ones that do and don't are different than what he came up here and said. I would just like to delve into it a little bit more, and let's make sure on our figures.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have for now. I will be sending some questions out to y'all, though.
Yeah, great, thank you.
No way I can ask.
Right, and if you want to meet with us one-on-one as well, and maybe, Mayor, if you can, any change in the budget, if we say we want to cut revenues, increase expenditures, has to come from somewhere. So we'll be working with the council over these next 4 weeks to see how do we accommodate the adjustments. Last year, as an example, the city council wanted to do some revenue reductions, and so the council wasn't prepared to cut anything, but we pointed out to council, if we cut revenues, then we have to cut spending. If we increase spending like software solutions, we have to come up with the money somehow. So it's either we increase fees or we cut. So we'll help you with that. It's the budget right now is balanced, and any adjustments, which is no problem, we expect it, and we're going to help and guide you through it. We adjust the budget by either less revenue, less spending, more revenue, that type of thing.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Peter. Councilman Cantu.
Thank you, Mayor. EMS, Fire Department. So the $240,000 that were taken away from them, what was it for again? It's a one-time fee or something, 240?
Yeah, so we had some money in tuition for the academy.
Okay.
And we've been able to have some savings working with Del Mar where we weren't paying full amount of tuition. So that's part of the one-time cut. And then we had some money that was set aside for promotion testing. So when we do battalion chief and assistant chief promotions, we have assessment centers, which you have to pay for the assessors to come in and the test to be built. So we see some potential savings with that. So that's where the 240 came from.
So it's not going to affect you guys at all?
No, it's not going to be out of our operating budget, which we're buying EMS supplies or any of that. So we try to identify areas that was not going to affect the tools and equipment and staffing of trucks.
I got a question on the EMS transports, like the co-pays, whatever the insurance doesn't pay, the patient pays for it. What happens if that patient can't pay for it? Do you all go to collections? What do we do?
Yes, so, and you're referring to like their copay?
Yeah.
Those
or no insurance?
Or if they don't have insurance, right? So if they, if they are able to get on our charity care plan, which we do have, and it is sent with each of our bills, we will label them as charity care, and they don't have to pay. And there is some certain requirements that they have to meet: no insurance, they meet 400% of the federal poverty level, those types of things. And we've identified that very specifically on setting those numbers so that it meets. It was 97% of our population that has no insurance will fall into the category that means charity care. And so we don't be an undue burden. Now, as far as those who have insurance, their obligation is their copay, or others that is their responsibility for their insurance company.
Yeah.
We are under certain regulations that we have to provide some reasonable amount of collections. And so we have a process that will do that. They get 3 bills, and it is a very regulated type that we have to provide some reasonable amount of collection with that.
But you guys don't report it to the 80-year-old lady's credit report, do you?
We do not.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure.
No, but we do follow all the law that we're supposed to, but also try to not be an undue burden to our patients.
Got it. And real quick, how much do you think we pay yearly for their academy for Delmar College? Do you know on top of your head by chance?
I don't have that right here with me. Again, we've had something, what we're usually paying is tuitions and some fees, and through certain programs, we've had some of that reduced. But you never know what that's going to look like each year. So, yeah, that's why this year we have some savings with it, and we were able to offer that up.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
And for the police department, the one time for 122K, what was that for?
The reductions?
Yeah.
They moved facility maintenance out under one umbrella, so that was part of the cost. And some groundskeeping was also removed out. They're just one-time costs, moved from our budget over to facilities.
So
asset management, rather. Yes,
so
sir.
We're good.
Yes, sir. No impact whatsoever to the PD operations.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. And then streets, I like the user fee. Can't wait to see it next week. I think we need to bring it back. I know people are going to complain a little bit in the beginning, but after a while, I think people won't even notice it. We need to fix our streets. I don't know why we even took that out, but okay. And then parks, couple questions. For example, say I want to do a free event at the Water Edge Park, okay? What are we charging the people that want to do like a weekend festival, something free downtown?
At Water's Edge?
Yeah, and the reason I asked is that somebody reached out to me last week and was saying that they're paying like $3,000 per day, $400 permit fee, and a $4,000 retainer. Does that make sense? Does that make any sense by chance? Or is it wrong information?
So on the permits, anything over, they go by participants, right? So 0 to 500, you've seen that already.
Yes.
Anything over that, there's a certain permit fee. So that's just a permit fee. The 4,000 is a refundable deposit cleaning fee.
Okay, so as long as they clean the property, you get the $4,000 back.
Right. Yes, and we have seen cases where some food truck festivals have left Water's Edge a mess, where we had to pull resources from all the tourist district. I can remember 3 years ago, 4th of July, to do a major cleanup before the veterans had their event out at Sherrill Park. So anything, we can look at the fee schedule, send it to you.
Are we already charging $3,000 a day?
I don't think it's 3,000 a day. I really don't. I know I've talked to the individual who that gentleman talked to as well, and I know it was in conversation, so nothing was ever submitted application, how many hours, anything like that. It was in conversation, nothing documented.
Yeah.
So that would be the next step. If he was really interested and wanted to do it, we'd say, fill out the preliminary application, let's make sure the date's available.
Yeah.
And after that, we'll go and if the date's available, we'll send out the long application after that has everything from traffic control plan, cleanup plan, if you need security. We also, will provide a dumpster as well from solid waste. They help us out with that during those big events.
Okay.
So all these things, whenever they fill out that application, it's lined out.
I just want to make sure that we're doing stuff for them because it's bringing people downtown,
Right.
and we want to build downtown up, and I think the more festivals, whatever we have in downtown will help downtown. On the food trucks, what are we doing? I believe that the governor signed into law that the food trucks is going to be under one permit in Texas. Is that what I read correctly? I saw that on the news.
I think it's one statewide permit
Correct.
instead of a local permit. And like I said, I'm going by what the news said as well. Yes, sir.
So we're not going to be doing permits in Corpus for food trucks.
That would be the health department permit and the permits they need. I mean, permit for us to be in our parks or whatever would still be, right.
But the health department will be one permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I apologize. Yeah, sorry, Sony Perino, Assistant City Manager. So yes.
What's your name again, sir?
Sony Perino.
I'm just kidding.
Yes, sir. So yes, with that, they did pass in the Texas legislature. So yes, it'll be just one permit, one food permit that'll require.
So if I have a food truck, I could just go to the health department here, get one permit and that's it, or I go to the state and do it?
No, it would be, they would still register with our health department.
Okay.
Because then we still have to do the inspection.
Okay.
But then let's say if they would go to another city, then they don't have to go to another city and then get another.
As long as they have a permit from that county or that city?
Correct.
Got it. Makes sense. Okay. How much time do I have left? I got one more time to talk too, right? So.
Yes.
Animal care. What?
She's not pushing, you're getting extra time.
Oh, there we go.
I know.
Pop, pop, pop. No, just kidding.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so I was talking to Peter yesterday, and Sony, you want to come up for this. I was talking to Peter and Heather, and this might not be the most popular thing to do right now, but I think we need to find a way to get more money for the animal shelter. I think we have a really big issue right now in Corpus Christi with stray animals. It's a public safety issue. In my opinion, y'all could say different. I think we're killing for space. And I kind of want to see how we can maybe throw around the idea, for example, the street user fee, doing another fee for the animal shelter and utility bills. Even if it's $3, $2, $5, I think people will react to it a little different than street user fee. I think people will feel good that they're doing their part to save animals in Corpus Christi. I think Corpus Christi is they love their animals, and I think we need to do something because, and I know that monies that we do get it passed and whatever the case is, I know building more kennels won't solve the problem, but that money will help with like spray and noodle programs, reaching out to these nonprofits to help us with animals, with other shelters or, stuff like that. Adoption overhauls. We could do a lot with that money, and it's a lot of money per year we collect these funds. And of course, we need to build another kennel and stuff like that. But like I said, that's not going to fix our problems. And what is your reaction to it, Sony? What do you think? Do you think that will help us a lot? Because we have no money for the animal shelter.
I think the way to answer that would be for council discussion.
in terms of how to.
But do you think that will help us?
Any revenue coming into animal care, of course, helps, but then there would also have to be a long-term strategy.
Yeah.
In terms of then how to properly utilize those funds. Because as we are now, the animal care facility was never built to be a true facility that handles adoptions, that handles stray or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so there would have to be a long-term strategy, and then from there to then say, if these are the amount of revenues coming in per year, then how does Sachi best utilize that?
I mean, is it possible we could do that, Peter? Is that legal? Like,
You know, Miles wasn't in our conversation yesterday, and he's not going to speak now, but let us debrief with him.
Okay.
We may have to be creative in how we implement the fee if the council chose to do that.
Yeah.
So what we talked about yesterday is we know that the street user fee that was about $5, and there was a commercial bill or an account as well, generates about 12 million. So if you do the math and, reduce it to 5, cut it to 3 or 2,
Yeah.
you can generate some significant money. And like anything in the city, more money generally improves service.
Yeah.
So we'll look with Miles to see, is there a way that a fee could be implemented? It probably would be just to residential accounts. That's something we talked about yesterday. But we'll look at it and continue that conversation.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Council.
Councilman Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sure your comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you. Councilwoman Paxson was first.
It was brilliant, too. I'll probably forget, Kayla.
Sorry. I'm trying to stay in order, but it's hard when online. So Councilwoman Paxson, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, I hope you wrote it down. I don't want to make you forget. It's brilliant. We want to hear it. But I have just a couple more questions. Peter, and I'll try to go real quick, so simple answers work fine for me. When we met over the budget initially at that 4,000 foot view, we had talked about the 2 fire properties that we could potentially sell for revenue. Did those by chance get included in any of this?
We do have $500,000 in the budgeted revenue for sale of city property, and it could include those 2 fire stations, yes.
Fabulous. My next question, we talked a little bit on solid waste. When I had my one-on-one to talk about the compost facility, I was told we do have a 15% rebate from TCEQ on the remaining tonnage that we take to the landfill. And that was, in my understanding at the time, a pretty sizable amount. Did we look into that by chance? It is, and when do we know that's going to potentially be able to reach the budget?
That, Philip Aldridge, Director of Solid Waste, that rebate won't take effect until we start composting. So it'll probably be the FY27 budget.
FY27, okay, perfect. Thank you for that. And then, Peter, thank you for being able to prioritize putting into this budget someone for homeless services. If this passes as is and we keep that in there, when do we expect that job to post?
We would post it, is it funded for 12 months, Amy?
Yes, sir, it is funded 12 months.
Okay, so we would post it even before October 1, knowing the budget's going to be approved September 9, so September 10th we would post it, since it's funded October 1.
I was curious.
Yeah.
I know going back to our meeting, the budget right now, we're looking at incrementally investing into that department. We don't know what the future is going to look like, but getting one full-time person in there is going to have a huge impact. Another thing that we talked about was incorporating the use of other resource opportunities such as internships and things like that. And did we explore that at all as a possibility? Because perhaps we can look at advertising that simultaneously so we don't lose it by the wayside, because that's going to take some time too.
I don't think we have yet, Councilwoman, but we will, and especially when the new person comes on, there'll be more staff capacity to do that. We talked about looking at the university, looking at some of the nonprofits here, or just high school students, so we're going to try to grow the homelessness services work by getting volunteer interns. That's what we talked about. And so,
yes.
Yeah, correct.
Perfect. I just want to make sure that we communicate it very well, that, while we are trying to close a substantial gap in our general fund, we did prioritize this, and we're being creative to maximize what we're able to serve
You know what I mean? So if we can make sure that we capitalize on that messaging, because I think there's a lot of community involvement there. So thank you for that. And then real quick to Parks and Recs. One of the things that I'm hearing across the dais, and thank you, Mayor, for also agreeing with some of the comments, is concern with the impact to the customers for the fees. Is it possible, I know we're prioritizing more grant writing services, is it possible to look at, as a priority, offsetting some of those costs with sponsorship funds or grants type things, so that way maybe some of that burden doesn't get transferred to the community, and also we're partnering with our local groups, because I know that's a successful schematic, like Little Leagues, they'll have banners of businesses all around the fences, that kind of thing, to work with some of those fees to offset.
So Heather Hurlbert, Assistant City Manager. So yes, we always look at those opportunities, and many of our programs do have scholarships associated with them. And so while we may adjust the fee for the overall program, there are other scholarship opportunities for those that maybe cannot, that would qualify for those scholarship opportunities.
Okay, perfect. So maybe if we were able to really embrace that, we can see a wider breadth of impact for those scholarships. Thank you for that.
Sure.
On page 372, I was looking under Parks and Recs, where we have all of our Harbor Bridge mitigation projects, about 6 of those there. It's showing prior year, I guess, funds being earmarked for this project. Could you kind of explain to me? I don't really see anything going into 26, 27, 28. Is that because those funds have already been earmarked previously and now we're going to expense those now? Or could you explain what I'm seeing there on page 372?
Yes, Councilwoman, that is, so the design services that have been performed was an approved contract for the design, the engineering design services to design those 4 parks. And so that made them ready to put out for bid. And
I can assist Camille Tires, well, CCW, but the prior capital budget manager. The reason why you're seeing it prior, because the funds for constructions were budgeted in fiscal 25. The contracts is coming next week. So in 26, there is no new budget for those projects. All of that money is in prior, because we're committing all of the money into fiscal 25 and then constructing the project.
And that includes the design services?
Yes, includes design, construction, everything.
Right.
So, okay, so everything has already been budgeted, and it's going to begin actual construction in 26?
The expectation, because when we developed our CIP plan, we knew that we would be bringing the construction contract to council in FY25. Those funds are already earmarked for FY25, and the construction may take, into FY26. We will be expending construction dollars, but they're already accounted for in FY25.
I guess what I'm getting at is, when do we see these projects, when are we ribbon cutting? When are we ready to open the doors on them? What's our anticipated date?
Jeff Edmonds, yeah, we're going to award next week. I think it's, what was the timeline, a year or so? Yeah, there's 4 different projects with 4 different levels of construction. As an example, the TC Ayers baseball field will be a much easier and quicker completion. The H.G. Williams Park improvements to include basketball resurfacings and putting shade covers will be quickly done. The 2 of the 4 that will take some time include the Washington Coles trailhead for the pedestrian walk over the bridge, and that includes an amphitheater, a nice outdoor pavilion with restrooms, parking lots, and a very complex site to regrade and construct on. So it's going to be a tremendous and beautiful asset. That one will take some time, probably a year. And as well, the swimming pool in what we're calling the north side swimming pool, just outside of the Hillcrest neighborhood, that'll also take about a year, in excess of a year. And that one is not 100% designed yet, so we'll come back to council on that construction contract later than next week. Next week will be 3 of the parks. The swimming pool will come back in the near future since it's still in design. But the right, I just want to add a shout out to them. The tremendous improvements, and we applaud the council for supporting it. It's a total of $26 million investment in those 4 parks, and it's consistent with a big motto of ours, which is engaging the community. It took us over a year, I think almost close to 2 years, to reach consensus with the community, and we did what they wanted to do, and so that's what these 4 parks will represent.
100%, I agree. I think these are huge priorities and they're going to be beautiful assets to the community. I'm curious though, if we're seeing only 2 of these roll out in the next 12 months, we seem to have quite a chunk budgeted for operations over in Parks and Recs for the upcoming 12 months. And I'm trying to understand the connection as far as, yes, we're going to start construction appropriate 100%, but also maintaining and doing staff, like one of these is an aquatic center, that's monumentous amounts of staff. And if it's not going to come online this year, but we've budgeted for that.
Right, Councilwoman, what we can do is next week at the council meeting, we'll match up the construction schedule for each of the parks with the staffing. So you can better see in some type of a diagram, to show each park and the layering in of either one-time purchases or staff. We can, if that's okay, if next Tuesday we'll show you that. Robert, I don't know if you have.
Well, and do you still have that budget presentation?
Ms. Paxton, your time's up, just so you know.
It's on slide 19, Peter, that I'm specifically referencing.
Yes, right. That's the one, Councilwoman. We'll match slide 19 up next Tuesday for that agenda item that shows, that awards the contract to JE Construction. And so we can do that next Tuesday. I think it's an individual item next Tuesday. And we can send it via memo too, but it may be helpful for everybody to see it next Tuesday.
Okay.
And Peter, just to add, just so there's no confusion, the Northside Aquatic Center has 2 full-time employees and 16 seasonal. Now, so that's one item. The other item is the Hillcrest Maintenance, and that's a total of 6 full-time employees. So she mentioned 18 with the parks, but we're different. The parks and the Aquatic Center are 2 different.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll give more detail, Councilwoman, next Tuesday, so we can see. And then just to point out, if we don't hire them as planned, the money drops to fund balance in the general fund. But I think the staff did a decent job matching up when the expected completion of the construction would be done and the timing of the resources, whether it's one-time purchases of staff. But we'll show you that in a diagram next Tuesday.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Campos.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I just didn't want to lose sight about the sidewalks. And I've been hearing this for a couple of years now about, we have to do the indexing, and the amount that I've heard is $1 million. But we have been able to do sidewalks, for decades. And all we actually need is a vetting process, because we've done it through our streets, whenever we do some of our streets. And we've also have used CDBG money that could be available. And I'm also looking at type B. Besides bonds, I'm just saying that there is more than one way to get sidewalks to our residents. I just don't want to lose that and getting stuck in this $1 million, assessment that should not prevent these sidewalks from getting done. So again, I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of that, and that we just keep, our common sense. We can come up with an assessment. I don't think it has to be all that difficult. So, and I do appreciate the comment that Councilman Cantu said about the animal care. Yes, there is a lot of need, yes, but I'm not sure if I totally support a fee, because I think there is money that could be obtained through the grant. As a matter of fact, I believe that's how we got the $250,000 or $200,000 for the spade and neuter, which I don't believe had been done in the past. So I am looking forward to this new grant writer that will be able to use some of the skills that are needed to offset some of these costs that could, or would benefit our city. So again, I think there is some grants out there. We just don't have right now the staff to go after it or know what we want to go after. So again, I think there's also even grants. When I first started on this, on the sidewalks, AARP had even funds, but, we didn't have the capacity to ask for it. The other thing I wanted to also just mention is about the recycling. I am going to hopefully get together real soon with Philip and just emphasize that I do believe 68% is a really good number for a city our size, even though it may seem as if we're not doing as great as it may seem like. I do feel that we're doing a better than above job average than some of our cities of the same size. Do you want it? Philip, thank you.
Philip Aldridge, Solid Waste. I'm glad you brought it back up. Just wanted to clarify what I said earlier. The cost of recycling is $4.2 million. Garbage is $7 million. So the $4.2 million is all in. That includes processing. It does not include the revenue that we get back from the sale of the material. So if we were to eliminate recycling, you still have the burden of all that becoming trash and then still having to go and collect it. So we anticipate those savings to be about the $2 million.
Okay, can you repeat that one more time?
Okay, so the all-in cost to recycle, go and collect it, drop it off at the recycling center is $4.2 million.
Yeah.
That does not include the sell. When we sell the material, it's $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 a year. It's a commodity. It moves around. So we receive that back in revenue. If we were to eliminate recycling, the recyclables now become trash, that we still have to go buy your house and collect, and that's a high fixed cost to do that. So we anticipate that cost to be around a $2 million savings, but then another $2 million would shift over to the garbage collection, and that would increase the cost of the garbage collection from 7.8 to about 9.9.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Scott.
Good as it was a few minutes ago, Mayor, but let me try to chin this up. Man, Heather, I'm going to go in deep, so just be kind to me because I'm way over my head. So I want to talk about the hot tax, hotel occupancy tax, and this is just going to set up a conversation for later. Does it page 252, 300, 500 line item revenues? Is our hot revenue income going down? 15.2 down to 14.5?
So yes.
Interesting. So we're budgeting less hotel occupancy tax revenue this coming year, than this current year.
Correct. So our collections, so if you look at the estimated collections for 25, and we do work very closely with Visit Corpus Christi on these based off of their information that they have, looking at the trends, average occupancy rates, along with average daily rates on our hotel rooms. And so looking at this, if you see on the estimated for 25, we are estimating about $800,000 less to collect $800,000 less than what we had budgeted. So we were going from the 19.8 million to 19 million is what we're estimating to collect. And so we are there's slight increase from what we are estimated to collect in 25 to what we're budgeting in 26. Unfortunately, what the industry is seeing is that there is a reduction in leisure travel. We are anticipating that we will at least stay flat and even with what we are, because we do have a large drive market, and so that is a more affordable vacation than, say, going to flying somewhere. And so, but we are not anticipating that we will see an increase in our hotel occupancy taxes, and that we will not reach what we originally budgeted for in 25.
Wow. What's the next line? Hotel occupancy tax, convention center expenses.
So we have a a hotel occupancy tax rate of 9%. 7 of that is a general, the local hotel occupancy tax that goes, like I said, to help support Visit Corpus Christi for our marketing, help support those efforts. And then City Council approved a 2% venue tax or convention center that goes specifically to the convention center and supports that. And so that $4.2 million was originally used for the debt that was issued to help the improvements to the convention center. That has since been paid off, and so that is available to go into those operations. We are utilizing that to help with our capital improvement program at the convention center, or the convention center complex that can be used at all of our different assets at what is now the American Bank Center. Will be transitioning over to the Hilliard Center. So that can be used within the arena, the convention center space, or the Selena Auditorium. And so that does help with operations along with capital improvements at the facility.
So the first line's the 7%, the second line item's the 2%?
2%, exactly.
It's just, it said convention expense, I just didn't, okay. And then I noticed the convention center expenditure goes from 1.6, right, down,
Yes.
up to 5.6?
Yes, exactly. So what we've done is, over the years, over the past several years, we've somewhat cleaned up the way that we show the funding in here. And so it had been that we spent some money out of the HOT fund, we transferred some money over to the convention center fund, and then we transferred some directly to CIP. So what we're trying to do is to be able to present that more clear picture of what funds are being used within the operations of the convention center complex. Is we are actually taking everything now and transferring it to the convention center complex fund and then spending out of there. So you will see that offsetting is the bottom line that says transfer to CIP fund. So we are now, instead of transferring it to different areas, we're bringing it all into one area and then transferring from there, so we can see a clear picture of what is being spent, not only for operations, for capital expenses, and for our CIP projects.
Cool. You'll be happy to note that I actually had a question mark on line item 6150, which is that bottom line.
Yes.
Hey, so you transfer 5.95 into the convention center, and then is there a page I just haven't found that says how we're spending the 5.5?
Yes, exactly. It is on page 302. So page 302 has the convention center, it's called the Convention Center Complex Fund.
Okay.
And so you'll see the different revenues coming into the Convention Center Complex Fund, and then the different expenditures going out of the Convention Center Complex.
Awesome. I'll follow up with you on that. Thank you. Yeah, and so the TPID funding is a separate funding mechanism, never flows through.
Exactly. So that is actually not a hotel occupancy tax.
Right.
It is an assessment similar to a development PID. You can do a PID or a public improvement district for hotels. And so that money is segregated separately from our hotel occupancy tax, because it is not a tax, and it is actually, it is administered by Visit Corpus Christi, has a total separate TPID board, and they have a service plan that they follow.
And then what's the one that the legislature just passed that you talked about? What's that acronym?
Public Finance Zone, or a PFZ.
PFZ, that's the one I was thinking of.
And so, or Project Finance Zone, not Public Finance Zone, Project Finance Zone. And so that one operates similar to how you have a tax increment financing zone, where you have a base year. So say we were collecting $100 in hotel occupancy tax at the state level. Then each year, so the next year it would go to $110 worth of hotel occupancy tax. And so that $10 increment, that the increase would then be available for that project. We do have to have a dedicated project. Like I said, we will bring forward for conversation, has to be approved by the comptroller. And then at that point, we're able to draw that money. The money will continue to accumulate even if we don't draw it on an annual basis, and we'll be there whenever we're ready for it.
When do we anticipate that conversation?
after we get through budget in the fall.
This fall, yeah, that'll be an important policy conversation, so we're going to wait till this fall when we have more time to put it together and have more data as well.
Exactly.
To put it together. Yes, sir.
When did we pay off the debt, the convention center?
So we actually paid it off, we paid it off early. I believe we paid it off in 22 or 23. So we were able to defease that debt. We had sufficient funding, and then we were able to free that money up to then go for some of the capital improvements that we have been doing over at the convention center complex.
And then 256, on page 256, it looks like changes, just wanted to kind of touch on the changes in expenditures, like we're spending $400,000 less on Gulf Beach maintenance, but North Beach did well, which is fine, that's awesome. 40% increase in North Beach maintenance?
So the difference between 25 and 26 for that Gulf Beach maintenance is we did have some capital purchases within there. I believe there were some vehicles, and then I think we also redid the kind of the maintenance barn shelter that we had out on the Gulf Beach, where the Gulf Beach operations were, and so I believe that was the majority of that difference.
Good enough for me, good enough. All right, two last thoughts. I'm in on street user fee. I'm interested in that conversation. That was a brutal experience that I think you woke up a couple years later and the public was used to it and streets got fixed. And then when you go through the presentation next week on these park improvements, it'd be interesting to see the trail system from the base of the new bridge. I think that's going to be a big deal for hiking bikers, tourists that are coming to town. I know when I travel, I love to rent a bike and you know, did the Golden Gate Bridge one time, and you go over and you have lunch across the way. I mean, it's actually got a ride back, full disclosure, but it was a thing, man. Anyhow, can you show that in the presentation?
Absolutely, we can, yes. Yeah, we have, it was tough to get, but we did get them eventually from the Flatiron and Dragados TxDOT group, but, and we focused on both ends of the trail, so there's a pretty elaborate $10 million trailhead here.
Cool.
There's an equally, maybe not as expensive, but elaborate trail system on the North Beach side. That it's not as expensive for us because TxDOT funded it through the bridge project. So there's a parking facility there. There's a safe trail there. We're guiding residents also to go to the beach, to North Beach. There'll be directional signage because you could go over the bridge, hang out for a little bit in the trailhead at North Beach, go to the beach, have lunch, and come back over. So we want to make it an experience.
Yeah.
It's going to really help.
Sea District area and then down shoreline is the general idea?
You could do that as well, yeah.
I know there's a parking area right there, but I didn't know if there's a trail that's going to tie into downtown so downtown tourists can.
Yeah, that's going to be a longer lead item. The trails that we talked about connect the 4 parks around the bridge, so we'll show you that, plus the trail over the bridge, the protected bike walkway.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. I think that's all of our comments. I am going to just mention one more thing, because I noticed in the book here, in our budget book, the animal care, we don't have, I see the calls for service, but I don't see, well, I guess, you know what? I'm talking about the presentation. So are these the priorities that were given, or is that something that was just recognized by staff, or were there more, I guess is my question.
Kathleen Chapa, Director of Animal Care. These are the top priorities that were discussed working with Citygate, and then also brought up by our advisory board.
Okay.
And staff.
Okay, I am going to, because I should probably start keeping track of the calls that I receive. And it's all about ACOs, really. It's about, I believe we need more ACOs, animal care officers. And I think that's extremely important, because I think that's where a lot of the complaints come from, which is, I've called and no one comes. I've called and no one comes. And that isn't a fault thing, and I'm not trying to throw that out as one. If we're not staffed, then we can't make that call in the right amount of time. It's no different than our police officers. You know, they have to prioritize calls, and so you get to that call as it comes in, which is why, you know, we have such a constant emphasis on more police officers for public safety. But here, this is the same thing. It's public safety. And I just want that I will be looking at this budget to look to see where we can find. I'm not necessarily a fee of adding a fee to the budget for this, but I think with some creativity, we have a lot of passion for this. We can look for some, other means here that we might be able to cut back. It's going to take a lot of time from this council, your own time, to look and ask. I mean, the resources are here. We can call Heather, we can call whomever and say, just like the $6 million I asked about earlier, that's taken. But I asked about it. And I think I'm going to focus very much on trying to find funding from within, from what we already have, for some ACOs officers, because I think that's extremely needed. And the public sees that. I mean, with the calls that come in, your calls right now are at projected at, is it 5,000? Perform timely, where are they? Administer animal. Number of animals, I just saw them.
It's 31, it's the estimate for this year of calls for service is completed is 31,000.
Yes, 31,000.
31, yeah, but the target is.
Targeted is 35,000.
35,000.
Right. So how do you do that without
by making
making sure that we have what we need to be able to
service the community.
Service the community. Thank you, Katie. So I just wanted to make that point. But again, I think we all need to really go back and do a lot of homework, because all of the things that were mentioned today are great priorities, and they're things that matter to the community. And as representatives of this community, it is our job to bring them forth. Now, the big job is, okay, how do we get it all in? Because the funding is the issue. But that's where we have to look at this and say, okay, do we really need this, or can we cut this back? So I encourage all of our council members to do that, to work with staff, because it is on us. And we do, I promise you, I'm going to be looking at this as I have, look at this line item, this budget, and be calling for some answers and inquiries. So with that, I want to thank everybody for their engagement today, for their focus, and for their insight. And as we move forward, or as we close, I just want to acknowledge the hard work and the collaboration from our city manager, from our finance team, from your team, and from the department leaders, everybody that put so much work into this general fund workshop today. It's extremely important, and I think now you have given us a lot of homework to do, and to try to reach the goals that we all want for the community and for each district. So let's carry on the momentum, and we will have the next budget meeting on, next Wednesday, and that is going to cover, water, the operating and capital improvement program, proposed budget, and rates. Is that correct, Peter?
Right, yeah, it's all on water next week, water, wastewater.
Just water.
Just water, and we're going to need the part of the third workshop, we expect, potentially. So next week, Drew will go over his operating budgets, and then go over the rates for water, wastewater.
Right, and that's scheduled from 9 to 1 here in council chambers. We invite everyone to please join us then. So with that,
And Mayor,
yes.
we did, so we have you may want to take a quick recess, but we do have the fire chief that will present. Right, I see people packing up, but the fire chief's going to go, he has did we pass out that presentation? We're going to pass out the presentation for him, but I'm not sure if you want to take a quick break or recess.
No, let's go ahead and get through with it.
Okay, Chief, come on up. Again, Chief Markle presented 2 presentations on his operations, and Councilwoman Vaughn asked that we do similar for a fire, and so Chief's going to do that today.
It's just different, it's just a different.
Okay, Chief, you ready? We got.
Yes, we're good.
Okay, yes, sir.
If everybody's ready to go, we let a few people file out. Okay, so Brandon Wade, Fire Chief, thank y'all for allowing us to present this, and I know we delayed it from a couple weeks ago to today, so some of the numbers obviously have changed just a little bit with it, but it gives us the opportunity to talk to you and tell you a little bit about what your fire department is doing out here in the community, and we've kept it pretty tight at a high level. There's a lot of numbers and things that we track, but these are the things that we're usually asked about and things that we are measuring as well. So with that, our operational resources are, as we said earlier, 455 uniformed firefighters and then 17 civilian positions. We have 18 fire stations. With those 18 stations, we have 14 of them have a medic unit that is housed there as well. That leaves us where we have 22 frontline fire apparatus. And those are broken down into our 15 engine companies that have all the hose. They're pulling the hose lines off to extinguish the fire. We also have 5 aerial trucks. Those are the ones that you see the big ladder on top in kind of different work. They can get to elevated places to get people off or elevated fire streams, and they carry different tools on them. We also have 2 specialty units, which are fully staffed as well. That is our technical rescue, our heavy rescue, in which they handle anything that comes from ropes, collapses, trenches. They do that specialty work. And then also a full-time and staffed hazardous materials unit that go to the hazardous materials calls. That keeps us with those 14 medic units. You also see off to the side there, we have 1 peak demand medic unit. Right now, our minimum daily staffing is 108 firefighters. Whenever we're over 108 and we're at like 110, we put another medic unit in service during a peak times that we see our medics getting used. So from 8 in the morning to 8 p.m., if we have the staffing allows us to do it, we put an additional medic unit in service. And that helps us with the just tremendous call load that they see during those hours. Since I've got here, we've increased our brush wildfire capabilities. We had 3 brush trucks. We had what is called the Type 5. Those are the pickup trucks, 4-door pickup trucks with a smaller pump than what you see on normal fire trucks. And also the water capabilities, but they allow us to go off-road 4x4s. We also added 3 Type 7s. Those are the ATV, the mule, the gators, whatever you want to call it. They're more nimble. We put a fire pump on those and a small water tank that allows us to get into the brush even quicker and be more nimble and extinguish those fires as well. So we've increased our capabilities in the grass and the brush fire response. Thanks to y'all's commitment to us, we added the shift commander position this fiscal year. And that went into place in which we now have a shift commander that is over each one of the 3 shifts, and that's on 24/7. That helped us with our span of control. And they do everything from ensuring we have that appropriate staffing on all of the apparatus. They do resource management. They're the advisors on any big incidents. And it breaks down, again, the command and control for all of the battalion chiefs. With that, we have 4 battalion chiefs spread out throughout the city. Each one of those has their battalion with a number of stations that are assigned to them, and then they are the incident commanders on any of the major incidents. And then again, with this past fiscal year, we were able to add the 1 field medical officer that is also staffed 24/7. That was one of the #1 things we said when I first got here, that the department in my station visit said we needed to have, and that was a person dedicated as a field medical officer, which is ensuring that our protocols are at the highest levels up to date. They assist on any critical incidents with our paramedics. They help us with training. They're hospital liaisons. If our medic units are getting tied up at a hospital waiting for beds to open, the field medical officers go out and they try to help free that up so we can get those ambulances back in service into the system instead of waiting at a hospital to transfer the patient over. So that has been a great increase into the department, is adding those field medical officers. This is the map of what our station kind of breakdown looks like across the city. Those that have a blue are the ones, the 14, that have a medic unit with it, and then the ones that are just red, those are the ones that do not have a medic unit with it. The peak demand unit that we said we put in place, we put that and house it when it's in service at Station 14. So during that peak time, 2 medic units are running out of Station 14. That is one of our busiest areas in the city. And they could also house another medic unit during that time, so that's where that peak demand unit sits. Of course, they can go anywhere in the city, as any of our units can, but that's where that 15th one goes during the day. Here's a breakdown again from a week ago. These numbers have changed. Well, I guess I shouldn't say, because these are the estimated ones, but what we look at for the past couple years for the structure fires, this year we're estimating that we'll probably be up around 339 structure fires, and those are that we qualify as fire in a building it was burning. We have over 1,000 fire calls that we respond to. So those are everything from the brush fires, grass fires, dumpster fires, vehicle fires, outside trash fires and burning. But those are the ones that we have classified as a structure fire. So that's quite a bit. With those an estimated 339 structure fires, right now where we're sitting is probably over 160 single-family residential house fires. So those are what the majority are that we're running to. We've had over 58 multifamily fires, which is in our apartment complexes, fourplexes, condos, things like that. And then we're over probably in the 60-something for commercial business fires right now. So what creates one year busier than the other? We don't know, right? It's a number of things. Our majority of our calls causes for fires that we're seeing is electrical. And that could be everything to very old electrical systems, aluminum wiring in there, to people utilizing, non-licensed electricians and stuff to do work around, and then you may have a fire. So that's why we always say it's important to have licensed electricians to do that work and not have that fires. We see that as one of our top ones. Our number of EMS calls continue to go up. This is the national trend. Everybody is seeing this across the country. We are no different. So our number of EMS calls are at 47,000, estimated to be 47,900 by the time we're at the end of the year. And again, our transports will go up as well with that. So we're estimating we'll be at 29,500 EMS transports for the year. Continues to climb, and we will probably see that go up. Our total calls for the year is estimated to be at 63,000. As our calls continue to go up, we have not increased the number of fire stations or number of units in quite some time. I think we added 2 medic units around, if I remember, was it 17 and 12 came online? 22. It helps for a little bit, and then the calls continue to go up, and then we're right back at the same utilization for our units. The big one that you see at the bottom, the total unit responses, 113,000 is what we're estimating by the end of the year. As we talked about earlier, where some calls you may get 1 unit respond, there are some calls you're going to get 2 units. So that's 2 responses for 1 incident. And we try to base that on what the priority is. And so we put the right resources on the incident at the right time, so we have a good, effective outcome with it. But those continue to go up as well. And again, there's some ways to do it out there instead of that we can look at to try to, you don't really reduce the calls. Some municipalities are looking at things instead of the easy answer of you call, we answer it, and then we just push lights and sirens, go out the door. There's another number of places and departments in the EMS system and fire, but a lot of times with the EMS system that are doing some creative things with dispatching. So instead of just trying to send a unit right out the door as fast as possible, they may take longer to process that time in the dispatching center to try to figure out what's the true resource that they actually need, and is it a medic unit to transport them. That's some things that we're looking at currently. Instead of just saying add more people, add more medic units, what else can we do to divert some of those calls to get the people that are calling the right resource that they need. Here's a little breakdown per the district. This was, again, as of around 2 weeks ago. You can see the number of structure fires. Again, those are just the structure fires that are within your district. Number of EMS calls, transports, and total calls that we saw as of year to date for fiscal year 25. Most of those, when we look at what the majority of the medical calls that we're going to be seeing in everybody's districts, the top 5, and it changes just a little bit, but the top 5 for everybody's district that we see on the EMS side is usually some sort of generalized sickness. People are ill, they're not sure why, but they will, need to go to the hospital, so we transported. Those are really called generalized sickness. And then falls, respiratory issues, cardiac or chest pain issues, and then traffic accidents. Those are the top 5 that you're going to see, and it's consistent amongst everybody's district on the EMS side. Some of the performance measures that we look at and that are tracked nationally, these are fires contained to the room of origin. We're doing pretty well with that. We have a goal of trying to keep it about 50%. There's a lot of things that go with that. The smaller that we can keep that fire, keep it into the room, whether it's a bedroom, a living room, or a kitchen, or a garage, maybe it's an office for a building, the less impact it is for the people, right? So maybe they can either move back into their home quicker, but this is a lot of things that go with it. The newer construction has more open floor plan, so fires move quicker. The modern type of home furnishings that we have, where legacy used to be cotton, wood, it used to take roughly 20 to 30 minutes to go into a flashover state, which means the whole room goes into fire. In the old legacy, 70s, 80s, and early 90s, it could be 20 minutes before it did that. Today, what we're seeing with all the plastics and synthetics, it's roughly around 2 to 3 minutes that we're seeing flashover. So it's becoming a lot more difficult for our firefighters to keep those to the room of origin. That's where we really look at the response time. It's where we talk about the 4-person staffing model, in which we can be up to 22 to 25% more effective with 4 people on a fire truck to deploy the hose lines, to forcible entry into to get the searches done, because fires are getting more aggressive and hotter as we go about. But that's a number that we're trying to keep for the fires contained to a room of origin around the 50% mark. So we're close. With that stat, though, we had to take out the vacant buildings. We discussed, some of the issues with vacant buildings that are there. Vacant buildings don't get called in usually until fires through the roof or fires coming out multiple windows and someone happens to pass by and see it. So that number is based on occupied structures in which there's a timely response, that is going off. The return of spontaneous circulation, otherwise called ROSI, that's something that's measured really across the world. Many variables go in with that. While we saw a 37% in 2022, and this year it's at 23%. A lot of things go into it. What you will see when you try to look at data across, every community is made up a little bit different, but anywhere from 17 to 30% is good on your ROSI score. And that a lot of times comes back to, if somebody goes into cardiac arrest, was it witnessed? And did CPR get started by a bystander? That's one of the big things that helps that. And then how fast can we get an EMS, ALS on scene to continue CPR and defibrillate? So we're doing pretty good with it. Even though numbers are going down, we're still within the range. There are some communities and bigger cities that can be up to only 9% in their return of circulation. So our paramedics are out there doing a great job, fast transport times to the hospital, and I think they're delivering really good medicine on the front. We're still doing very well. This is on the response for fire calls and EMS calls. Even though our calls are going up, our unit utilization hours are going up. The percent that we like to see on response to get to fire calls and EMS calls in 8 minutes is 90%. That's a standard that's across the nation when we're looking at the NFPA. We're at 87%. Again, goes to a lot of factors. How busy are we? Road connectivity, road construction, units not being down for maintenance. That's why we continue to always try to push to keep our fleet up and running. because if you're down for maintenance, you're not responding to calls. So we're doing really good on the 87%, and we always look to see how can we improve our response time. We don't want our people necessarily driving faster, so that's where good station design, making sure that they're available for the calls, getting out of the station fast, so a good alerting system that is going quick. That's where we're looking to improve those, because response times isn't just about driving fast either. On the fire prevention side, the number of inspections that we complete, this is something that we've watched for. This has gone down since 2022. There's a number of factors with it. Since 2023, we've had a number of our fire marshals and the inspectors being out, everything from being off the job for past injuries on the job. Maybe they're going to go get surgery and they're out for 2 months with it, to them using the Family Medical Leave Act, whether they've been ill or they've had family ill. So for the past almost 3 years, we've been down roughly 3 inspectors each year. And some of those were for some long-term illnesses. And then we've also had some retirements. They were fully staffed in 2022. But when someone goes and retires, we have to bring somebody else in. They have to go through a state certified class to become a fire inspector. Then we have to onboard them and show them how to do the inspections properly. So it takes some time. So we've been down for the past 3 years in each one of those, with retirements, family medical leave, and injury on the job stuff. So we're currently fully staffed. We hope to stay there with it and keep pushing those up. What we have done, we'll have another slide on it, some of the things, even though we've been down, the increased services that our fire marshal's office has done. So even though individual inspections may be down a little bit, we've made some enhancements inside our fire marshal's office, I think, that helps keep this community safe. Our number of arson cases, again, it varies. We have 4 arson investigators. Currently this year we're at 22 arson cases. They've made 17 arrests. We classify, the arson case and the rest is we had enough to make the arrest. Whatever the DA does at that point, we have no control with that, whether or not they're going to pursue it. But our investigators are out there, and we investigate every fire to make sure we have a cause determination with it. So they're responding to quite a bit. Fire fatalities, at the time it was 2. Obviously in the news we just saw that. This year we're at 3. That's something that ebb and flows for various reasons. We continue to push smoke detectors, as that's one of the #1 life-saving things that we see inside the residential places. And obviously commercial occupancies are supposed to have a monitored system. So we always hope for 0. Some of the things are out of our control, but we try to make sure that we have the best response that we can to it to reduce the fire fatalities. And then we've had 13 fire injuries this year, and those are civilians. Those are not our firefighters. So as we talked about on the fire prevention side, we wanted to make a clarification as food trucks came up about permitting. So that permitting appears with the state that put that in. That was for the health code with it handler. There's still a permit for food trucks on the fire side because they have to meet fire code with it. So they still will need to come in, even though they may get a permit somewhere else and it takes care of the health side, the food handler side. When a food truck comes into our city to operate, they still have to get a fire permit, and that's for good reason. They're running propane, they're cooking with it. It was several years ago, I think, a food truck exploded in San Marcos, and it was not a small explosion when it did that. So there's reasons that there are food truck inspections. And that's some of the things that the fire marshals has improved on, where we were not involved in special events, which brings large crowds. If you look at a number of special events across the country, we've been very fortunate here where they've had some serious safety concerns, and then they identify it after the big event happens. We've included our fire marshal's office to go into these events that you see here, the Art Walk, the Buck Days, Juneteenth, Big Bang, and they not only do their jobs and do the inspections, make sure things are up to code before, we verify it during the event too. So they're walking around. Even though a food truck may have their fire permit, the fire marshal's office and the inspectors are there, and they're using gas monitors that we bought them, and they've identified a lot that have a propane leak. And many of the stuff that we get to, we find we can correct right there. So now we don't have a food truck with a propane leak. We've corrected it on the spot. They can keep operating. We don't affect the venue. So I think that, looking at fire lanes, make sure emergency exits are still there when we have, areas of the parks that are fenced off. They've really stepped up their game and have pushed that side of the house. And then they've also pushed more on the smoke detector drive. So when we've seen injuries and fires or fire fatalities at places, we've tried to do a smoke detector drive, especially when there's not a smoke detector present in there. So we've had a number of them. We've partnered with the Red Cross. We'll go door to door and hand out free smoke detectors and install it for them. So one is better than none. We can't always put one in every single room in their house, but we try to get at least one of the smoke detectors in there, and we offer that for free. And then recently we had another donation in which people can call in, and they've been doing it after we did the news release, and we've installed smoke detectors out there. Again, it's just one of the #1 lifesavers for families when we see residential fires. On the emergency management side, fortunately, we haven't had to be too busy with that as other places have, but we've just kind of highlight some of the things that they're doing as emergency management has been the hot topic, I think, in the state, as we've seen, and especially with this special session up at the Capitol. We've had 5 EOC activations. Most of those are for just the larger special events. Buck Days, the parade, well, we'll get the EOC on a minimum staff, a very minimum staffing level, just so we already have some oversight. Should something happen, it's already kind of spun up and we can bring other players in. So we've had 5 of the EOC activations. That staff of 3 has done 17 hurricane preparedness presentations, at least 57 general meetings. They go to the safety school and security meetings with them. They're involved in a lot of committees and work groups. They review plans from other of our city departments, their emergency plans and hurricane plans, and nursing homes submit plans to them as well with state law. So they're very busy. We just condensed not the bigger things that they do, but every day those 3 are out trying to do a lot in this community and making sure that we are prepared for the expected, which would be a hurricane, and the unexpected that could happen. And then last, we wanted to highlight this. This is our deployment. So we were part of a couple state programs, everything from Texas Task Force 1, all hazards and incident management teams, to the emergency medical task forces. And we've gone on deployments across the state this year and outside the state. So we've had everything from incident management teams for wildfire supports up at the state offices. We've gone all the way to the Panhandle. Obviously, wildfire locations from Fort Stockton, Marble Falls, College Station. We've gone to Hurricane Milton when the hurricane hit Florida. We sent people, and a lot of that is on the overhead side of the house for the incident support teams. We participated with our tactical medics up at the Capitol during election days. We've gone to California wildfires. And then, of course, more recently, we were in the Hill Country. We still have 3 people deployed up in the Hill Country area as they're still doing some search operations, looking for some of the final people that haven't been found. So we're still up there supporting that. But a big piece with these things, we are never down people. Whenever we send people out, we are still able to maintain full staffing of our operations. And the state reimburses us not only for the people that are out and the overtime that it costs for those folks that are out, but they also pay us for backfill. And that's what I mean. We will always backfill for the people that we send out, and the state covers that cost, so the city is not out. And then for any assets that we send out, when we send the ambulance out, or we send a medic unit or a truck out, the state also reimburses the city for the use of that asset. So, we want to make sure when people see that they're not just saying the local tax money is going to help, someone in Florida. We're getting all of that covered and then some when we go do it. And what that provides us, yes, as good neighbors, because we could always use that help here, but also the experience that our folks get when they're out and what they bring back from organization of large disasters, how to operate at these wildland fires, medical stuff. You can't replace it. So we get a lot of things that are coming back from the state deployment. And I will say the city of Corpus Christi is represented very well in all of these things. We get great stuff. I can't tell you how many text messages I got from the Hill Country area of people seeing Corpus Christi Fire Department out helping and actually couldn't believe it that we're all the way up there. But we go everywhere from Florida to California to assist. And then with that, I think the last thing I want to say, I meant to say at the very beginning, I wanted to say thank y'all because a month or two ago, y'all approved us to be able to do the cancer testing. If y'all remember that item that came through. So we just completed the first round of that, and we were able to bring in over 300 plus firefighters to get their initial cancer screening. That is a huge commitment and a benefit to our firefighters. As we talked about, cancer is one of the top killers in what we're exposed to in the fire service. We're going to have the round 2, which captures the rest, come this new fiscal year in October, but we had over 300 plus firefighters do it, and some retirees, because that company came down, some retirees even went in and did it there. So thank you for doing that. That was just a great commitment to our organization. We appreciate it. And with that, stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Chief Wade. That's wonderful. That's really, really good news. And how many times a year are they going to do those screenings?
So right now, because we talked about one of the mandates that came in with, I think it was Senate Bill 198, it's going to be mandated. We have to do cancer screenings every year. It doesn't have to be that same one, but we're now mandated under state law to give occupational physicals, which also includes cancer screening every year.
So once a year, yeah.
Once a year.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is really good. And let us know how those numbers look.
Absolutely.
Annually of all of our firefighters that
Yes.
are coming forth. And we want to thank you all for your service. Thank you all for being here. This was a great presentation. We appreciate it very much. I just have a quick question. I don't remember the slide number, but there was 17, number of arrests was 17. I'm sure you can find that
Yes.
slide. But tell me, that was for, what was that for?
So those for arson cases, so where somebody's intentionally lighting something on fire, we were able to identify it was intentional, and then find the suspect and go make the arrest on them.
And I guess there's no real way to prevent that. I mean, those numbers.
It's hard to prevent arsonists.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to prevent arsonists.
And then the other number I wanted to inquire about, I just wondered if it was maybe some one or two big fires. You had 6 fatalities in 24 and 2 in 20, well, so far in 25.
Yeah, 25 we had 3, 6 and 24. I wish I could remember every one of those in 24, but I think those were all on single incidents in which.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I was
think they were all residential. Maybe one, if I'm remembering, and it was a car crash that went into a building and then caught on fire. I think that one was in 24 as well. Again, we would like to have 0, and that's why we're always trying to push for fast response times, smoke detectors being in there, because we usually see it in residential. Obviously, this, where we were at, for the current year, we're at 3, and we were at 2 when we first put it. We had the unfortunate incident there at the gas station.
Right.
So it's 3 this year, but, something like that's hard to prevent.
Okay. Well, thank you. All this information is very good in terms of why we do what we do and invest in our department.
Yes.
So thank you. Councilman Roy.
First of all, thank you for your presentation, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for your leadership. I mean, we're very fortunate as a city to have great safety officers, police and fire. We're very fortunate, and we appreciate what you guys do. I do have a question about when the bridge comes down, and I hear this when I'm over in North Beach a lot. We know that there's going to be the possibility of traffic changes in the area and reconfigure streets and things of that nature. So I just want to make sure that I'm sure you're going to reassess the amount of time that it's going to take to respond once we are reconfigured, because I get a lot of questions about it. Is there going to be a separate facility actually out in the North Beach area?
Yeah.
Any comment on that?
So with the bridge, once the Station 1 has a direct access right now to the Old Harbor Bridge, right now it looks like we have 3 stations, and we'll see, I think, when the old one comes down and then the mapping comes in place, Station 1, Station 3, and Station 5 may have almost close to identical response times going over the new Harbor Bridge, just because of the access with it. So we think 3 of them will be close. We know there will be a small increase, I think, in the response time, because they're not going to be able to exit right when they get off the Harbor Bridge. They're going to have to go further down, I believe, to Beach Street, and then turn around and come back down. So that will be add to a little bit of an increase in the response time if we're going to go all the way back to the state aquarium.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully it's only a minute. We don't like to increase it by anyways, but putting another unit or another station, I think, out there on the North Beach side, currently we don't see the call volume for it, and we will assess what is our response time. Can we still make the 8 minutes, or we have a big outlier with it? So we'll definitely keep a close eye once the old bridge comes down.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, number one, that everyone knows that you are looking at those things.
Oh, yes.
The other thing I was just wondering that kind of goes hand in hand with that is that when this bridge comes down, you know, I don't know in terms of debris, safety, the potential maybe for fires. I mean, it's not a wooden bridge, but is that going to put a higher demand just from a safety perspective on your staff when the bridge comes down?
We don't believe so. We've had some, I think, initial discussions with it, and I will have more as they get closer with the port. We don't see it really affecting us. Sometimes when we've had certain events happen, maybe we bring because that's a big thing coming down, there's going to be workers around it. Maybe we bring something in where we have some more of our rescue crews available should something happen. I think the port is handling most of it. My understanding, it's going to be interesting to see, is they're supposed to lower it on barges in a controlled manner, and off it goes. And I hope it goes that smoothly, but I think we'll be ready for it. But we have not been advised that there's going to be any need for fire, you know, being ready to respond to it.
Okay, and then my last thing is I just want to thank you. I live out in the Calallen area in a house that's 1986. Built in 1986, and my wife keeps trying to get me to buy a new house, and I'm telling her that I'm concerned about her safety and the amount of time that if there was a fire. So
yeah,
thanks for helping me with that.
Yeah,
and you know,
you're welcome.
She wants a new open floor plan like everybody else does, but you know, safety first. Thank you.
Councilwoman Vaughn.
Thank you for doing the presentation. I thought it was so important to hear from you guys because we hadn't. My concern too is on North Beach. By the way, this will help you with buying new furniture. Keep the old stuff.
Keep the old stuff,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
My concern too, I'm glad Everett brought that up, is North Beach has been for a long time. They've always been worried about not having a fire station and police station out there too. Mm-hmm. So you're saying there's not enough calls right now to warrant.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, and Chief Urban, were we just over 200, I think, for a year? That was in FY24, or were we less?
It's about 300,
okay.
Of those being on the northern, and it's actually decreased over the last 20 years.
Has it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's one part of town we've seen a reduction in calls versus.
Yep.
Okay. And when I was on council before, I toured the stations,
right.
And they were in terrible shape. I mean,
yes.
I was embarrassed as a city to think that's what they looked like. So I know that you've added more. So how many are left that have to be redone or remodeled?
So we had the plan for 9 fire stations to be replaced, and those were existing fire stations to be replaced were 9. So we just did Station 3, so we have 8 more. 2 this year should start construction, which is 8 and 10s should start construction this year by the end of the year, break ground. Then we have Station 9 and 11 that is going to be in design. That's the one that we've recently approved the purchase of the land so we can put Station 9 and 11. That'll put us at 5, and then we have the 4 as the bonds go through and we get closer. So a total of 9.
Okay. One thing that I noticed here was your EMS calls. It's quite a bit more in District 1. Is it because of the population? What is it?
Population and size. So District 1 goes a very long way. So population and size is part of it.
Okay.
Yes.
That's concerning. What do you charge for the fire permits?
So we have a lot of different permits. Which permit are you talking about?
The food trucks.
$75.
Oh,
$50? $50.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
Oh, that's reasonable.
And that is
annual.
Yeah.
That's good.
If you look at other cities, there's other cities that charge a lot more for food trucks.
Yeah.
So we're pretty reasonable here with it. Yeah.
That is reasonable. That's reasonable. And thank you for doing the smoke detectors. I think that's such a great program.
It is.
All right, that's all I got.
Thank you very much.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Councilman Scott.
Chief, first, you guys bring honor to the community. Thank you very much. It's
a privilege.
It's what you guys do going across the country is just remarkable. And I think Corpus Christi appreciates it, but I think Texas recognizes it. And so I wanted to, and by the way, if I ever want to ask Chief Urban a question, I want you to just give me the look, because the guy's going to tell me how to make that watch. You're amazing, sir. And, you know, honestly, and this is going to sound really weird, I think I understood what you said. I think you said it in a manner that even I could understand, and I appreciate that. I have no real questions, just idle curiosity. So the number of EMS calls, like in 25, you got 47,000, but the number of transports 29. What's the deal? So you go, somebody's fallen, and you get them up, and then you don't have to transport?
Right. So there may be some times where people don't want to go to the hospital. We can't kidnap them. Right. So, but you know, their family member calls for them. We go, we assess them. We can advise them as much as we want that you should go to the hospital. But if they don't want to go, they don't go. And then there's some that, you know, we may not advise them. They may think that they're injured and they need a stitch. And they go, do I have to go to the hospital? We go, no, but maybe you need a stitch or two, and they go to a minor emergency on their own.
My dad, when he was alive, was falling at the end, and Mom had no choice.
Right.
You know, over in Kingsville, she had to call, and
Absolutely.
those guys showed up and got Dad up. And
that's right.
So I thought that was interesting. You know, basically 50% of the calls don't end in transport.
Right.
Just interesting. So I'm fascinated by the arson. So, like, what's the main type of arson? Why would somebody set a fire? I mean, do you interview? Does somebody go like, what was that about?
I think you have everything without, you know, bringing one of them in here and going over all the specifics. But what we've seen, you have everything from people that are a firebug and they just want to burn things. You can have that. You have people that light fires to cover up crimes. That can occur. Some people just want to destroy property, and you may see that depending on, and unfortunately sometimes you see that in the homeless community. If I get angry at somebody else and I know where you're living or staying, I'm going to burn you out of that vacant building. That happens as well. So there's a number of reasons that you may see it.
That's
right. There could be some for insurance purposes. That does happen too across the country where, you know, whether their home or their business, they may light it, but varying reasons.
Well, so, thank you. I do think you all have a role to play in this conversation about the abandoned building or vacant lot fee, because I don't think a lot of us, I don't. This is new to me. I wasn't involved previously, and I think you all have a big role to play. So if there's a conversation to be had about why you all think it's important that we have this fee, then I think I'd like to hear it. So.
Right, and we have had a number, and I don't have the exact, but it's probably I'd say over 100 vacant building fires. And just recently we've had a string of them. Vacant buildings worry me, and when I say vacant, I mean dilapidated, abandoned. You know, just because somebody's business is closed, they're going to rent it out. I don't count that as vacant. It's just unoccupied at the time. But vacant buildings, dilapidated buildings concern me. Oftentimes they don't have utilities, but a fire gets started in there. So what does that mean? That means there's probably a human that was in there. As Chief Urban said earlier, we're agnostic. We're here to serve whoever it is. It doesn't matter. We still have to take some reasonable approach to how do we search and get in there. And my firefighters going inside these vacant buildings, trying to make the best, you know, what we call the survivability profile based on fire and smoke conditions. They're trying to put it out and reasonably get a search in very dangerous structures. And I would say this is one of the best cities I have seen from where I've come from, and I think it's a big part of our city manager's initiative that when we go to these vacant building fires, the battalion chief, the incident commander that's in charge will mark it when they give us the report saying this building needs to come down. It is a high hazard to our community and a high hazard to our firefighters because we have to keep going back here. And then we work with DSD and they are able to put a contract and tear that down. And oftentimes we get feedback from the community is thank you that this has been a problem, you know, for us for some time. So that is a big concern, those vacant, dilapidated buildings.
Okay, well, that's important to me, and you know, the fact, y'all's safety, having to deal with the fact that somebody.
It worries me every time they go in there, but I understand the fire started somehow, and Could be a number of reasons.
Is there a rating? So an average EMS response is what, 8 minutes? You had some statistic under 90%.
Yep.
But is there, if it's under 3 minutes, is there a national standard that you get an A, B, C, or D?
No.
It's just 8 minutes is the standard?
Yeah, as a standard for, NFPA 1710 of what you're trying to get, to your incidents by.
I always joke that the older I get, the nicer I am to y'all. Because someday somebody's going to come to my house and let them go, no, not me, not touching them. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
You bring great pride to the city.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Campos.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Chief, for enlightening us about the importance of sending firefighters to different parts of our country, different parts of our, the states. It's not just us, going out there, but also bringing back some of that knowledge that you can't get, unless you're there, right? So I just want to say thank you for that. I also just wanted to just touch on the calls, because I just actually asked our city manager about the calls that are being received. I mean, because I believe yours is like 52,000 or something. I don't know what I thought I had the page, but it's some.
60. We're over 60,000 calls.
Okay, and then I heard Animal Care Services, 31,000 calls that they received. That's a lot of calls. So what I am gathering is, I'm just looking at the expenses, and I don't want to harp on it, but, the fire department is budgeted for $80.7 million, 87 for the police, and $5 million for the Animal Care Services. I know that, Councilman Cantu brought up about a fee, but I'm trying to figure out what is that we could do to just, I guess, just be more equitable is all I'm trying to say. I know it's not on you. I know you're doing the best you can with what you have, and you're doing an excellent job. And this is what I think it means, is when we put our attention, to the fire department and the police, you get excellence, I feel. I mean, like you're saying on the calls and what is being done for our community, which is the response time, right? I'm just hoping that will translate to the other departments. So again, I just want to congratulate you, but I also want to highlight what could be, we could do a little better job with some of our other departments. I really didn't have anything else, but thank you so much, and I'm glad that that our firefighters are getting that assessment for the cancer screening. I think it's so important, especially the job that y'all do, and so I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Y'all are out there without, just yes, I think you all do get a lot of fanfare.
We get some fanfare.
You do,
Like
you do.
firefighters.
But I want you to know how much I appreciate, and our residents do as well. So thank you
very much.
Councilman Cantu.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for everything you guys do. And thank you for having only 11 pages. I was telling Peter, thank you. I think Mark asked the question, EMS calls transports is nobody, right? Like number of transports, they don't transport nobody?
So the number of transports, that's who we're taking somebody to the hospital. So we're estimated 29,000, we're gonna hit 29,000 mark this year again.
And then the ones without transport, is it EMS calls, or what difference?
No, so when we're saying EMS calls, that's total medical. Somebody's calling in with some sort of medical. Out of those 47,900 estimated, we're going to probably have 29,000 transports out of that. So over half the time, we're transporting someone on medical calls.
Wow. So we do a total of like 109,000 calls a year?
So we do specific incidents. We're estimated to be at 63,000 of specific incidents. And then we'll have, with 63,000 specific incidents, we have rolled 113,000 units, because some incidents may require, like CPR, you need to get a fire truck and a medic unit so we can do effective CPR and take care of the patients, right? So that's getting 2 units to that call. At a house fire, you're going to get 7 units because of the amount of tasks that have to be done and the time to do it. You're going to get 7 units on a house fire. So that's where the responses is different than the total calls.
Gotcha, okay. And then I had one more question. Number of inspections completed, those inspections are just for like what?
Commercial properties, those are what I would say like technical inspection, new builds, those are all of those type of things. So that's inspectors going out, looking at businesses, making sure they have it, school inspections.
Got it.
And then also, if we get complaints come in to go check something out, they're going out and they're doing the inspections of those.
So the number of 4,040 from last year, how many inspectors do you guys have doing this?
9.
9? Wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And at some point, we've had it on a wish list. Again, a lot of priorities of increasing in the fire marshal's office. This year, one thing we didn't put in there, I asked our fire marshal to put a special team together for high-rise fires. I think it's 13 or 16 high-rises without sprinklers. Yeah, that is a major life hazard, is having high-rises without sprinklers. We've put it in the code where they have to eventually come up to that code, and by 2032, I think it is.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah,
Somebody told me about that.
it is that besides abandoned building fires, a high-rise fire in an unsprinklered building will be, every fire truck will probably have to be there, just so everybody would know that.
Wow.
So we put a team together, and his team has gone in to really inspect those high-rises, and not just the ones without sprinklers, but all high-rises, to make sure that they're up to code as much as possible to keep any occupants that are there safe, and then our firefighters that will have to respond.
I feel bad for those owners, because that's a very expensive.
It is. It costs a lot more, though, when it catches on fire if you go look at it.
Yeah.
You'll be in lawsuits, and the loss of life will be even worse.
And then, I think you did say it, I don't know, it was in the back, but the SUVs that go around on code, they're going to assist a call. Is it because the fire truck or the ambulance is not there yet and they're going to be the first responder?
So there's a couple things. So you may see an SUV, kind of looks like a pickup truck with a camper. Those are our battalion chiefs that are going around. They're going to go to usually calls that have multiple units, and there are incident commanders for it, command and coordination of the incident. You may also see an SUV, that's the field medical officer, and it'll say EMS field medical officer on the side. They're going to critical calls to help with the patients, also notifying hospitals. And then every once in a while, we have some squads that are out there. So at our stations that have the ladder trucks, instead of necessarily running a ladder truck, so truck 4 has a squad over in their area. So they may make a lower priority medical call in the squad and keep the fire truck back at the station. So they're not taking, a $1.5 million truck to a lower priority medical call, which the wear and tear on those is rough.
Yeah.
So you may see those as well over there.
Yeah, I remember seeing an accident, like a little 2-car accident. One of those big old ladder trucks showed up. I was like, what are they doing?
Well,
yeah.
I want them to bring that there because they got a lot of tools.
Yeah.
I understand that the wear and tear with it. We're trying to be as good as possible with it. There's some other response things that we can do where you can put full-time staff squad, so you can only have to send, a single resource provider to some of those ones. But what it does is when we send it, like that ladder truck there's times that you leave that medical call and a fire comes in, a rescue comes in, and you need that truck to divert and go right to it. So you try to balance it out as best as possible.
One last question. So does Corpus Christi have a problem with people calling 911 and abuse the system just for?
There's some that is abuse, and then there's some that are high-frequency utilizers.
Got it.
Yes, every system has it. And again, very rarely, I think, sometimes is it just abuse, where people are purposefully trying to call and disrupt a system. That's what I would say is abuse. But then there's some high-frequency utilizers that we also have within our EMS division. We work with police. We work with adult care services to try to get them the right help that they need so they're not calling every day. And do we have some that call every day, every other day? Yes. Okay. And those are tough challenges to deal with, but we work with them to try to get them the right help that they need.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Absolutely.
Councilman Panetta.
Here, I'll be brief, believe it or not. What is it, first off, just like everybody else, thank you for the great job that you guys are doing. I mean, your guys are, very well respected all across. I know at the legislature in the last session, you guys were spoken of very highly. Yeah, and thank you for being active in that. But I just kind of want to reiterate, I know a lot of times we have consternation about fees and, but I think thank you for giving us that information about the challenges with vacant structures, because all we're trying to do is mitigate long-term costs. And the thing I encourage is that, sometimes we look at that and we have a fire and we have a non-compliant property owner and they put the neighbors in danger.
Yes.
They put the community, they put the neighborhood in danger, and, it could be an absent person. And, it's true, those individuals, those neighbors pay taxes and they've been compliant. So I just, I think that's important. So thank you so much for validating that, because it's going to cost us a lot more down the road. And so I thanks for that, giving us that bit of information, because I think it's important. I'm just curious, as far as training, I know when you go do inspections, in another life, I was a fast food restaurant manager. And believe it or not, I was involved in 4 fires in a short time. One of them was for my own stupidity. They were all small. One was an electrical fire and 2 were grease fires. The 2 that were grease fires were just because lack of training of the individual working in a fast food restaurant. And, they just weren't maintaining the cleaning out the
system.
Fires, the system. Is there any training that we offer? When it just perked my mind when you said food trucks, do they have to be re-inspected every year, or how does it work?
The food trucks have to be re-inspected every year. And Tony, if you want to speak on, I'll bring the fire marshal up to talk about the training for restaurants and stuff inspections.
Good afternoon, Tony Pettis, fire marshal. One of the things that we do that a lot of people don't know about is fire extinguisher training.
Yeah.
And so you can request it through our office. And we go to restaurants, we go to businesses, and a lot of times we have fire extinguishers that can no longer be used, so we get to actually do live fire and let them use them to do that.
Yeah.
And we don't charge anything for that. That's just a
that's good.
service.
I think that's the thing, and especially in industry, fast food, we got a lot of high school kids, a lot of young college kids, and, it's just, and, they just don't know any better. And I'll embarrass myself. The situation that I was a kid in high school at the time, and we were cleaning the floors, or scrubbing the floors with water all over the place, and I plugged in a piece of equipment, boom, and knocked myself backward, and, I just didn't know any better. That's what happened. That's why I have this hair deal. That's the thing. I think, of course, back in the 80s, there wasn't a whole lot of training for safety anyway, and I'm sure it's changed now. But anyway, thank you again for what you do, and thank you for explanation, for at least giving testimony on the issue with vacant structures.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Chief Wade, thank you so much. We appreciate your presentation and all of the information, your service, and thank you all for being here as always.
Thank y'all very much.
Yes, and with that, Michael, or Peter, I'm just going to add one quick thing to your follow-up list.
Okay.
If you could include a follow-up on the benefits to the retirees.
The retirees?
That the COLA being retroactive is going to afford. We really didn't talk much about it, but it'd be nice to have that follow-up. In other words, we're going to go back, right, retroactive.
Oh, right.
This is going to be retroactive.
Right.
So maybe elaborate a little bit on the benefits of what that means to our retirees. Thank you. Okay.
Absolutely.
I know. I know, exactly. All righty. Well, thank you. This meeting is now adjourned.